As the sun begins its slow descent, a soft golden light washes over the high desert of northern New Mexico. The vast landscape, painted in shades of ochre, sage, and dusty rose, prepares for the quiet embrace of dusk. Here, nestled at the foot of the majestic Sangre de Cristo Mountains, lies a place that seems to exist outside of time, Taos Pueblo. This is not just a historical site. It's a living, breathing community, one of the oldest continuously inhabited places in all of North America. For over 1,000 years, the Tiwa-speaking people have called this land home, their lives and traditions woven into the very fabric of the earth and adobe. The main Pueblo structures, with their multi-storied honey-colored walls, stand as a testament to a remarkable history of resilience and cultural continuity. These are not ruins or relics of a bygone era. They are homes where families have lived for countless generations, their stories whispered on the winds that sweep down from the mountains. In 1992, the profound historical and cultural significance of Taos Pueblo was recognized by the world when it was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It stands alongside wonders like the Pyramids of Giza and the Great Wall of China, a treasure of human heritage. Our journey today is not one of fast-paced tourism, but of quiet observation and deep respect. We're going to explore the 1,000-year story of this incredible community, listen to the echoes of its past, and appreciate the enduring spirit that thrives here today. This is a story of survival, of connection to the land, and of a culture that has weathered the storms of history while holding fast to its core beliefs. So take a deep breath of the crisp mountain air and let's step gently into the world of Taos Pueblo. As we walk through the village, the first thing you'll notice is the architecture. The buildings are made of adobe, a mixture of earth, water, and straw, formed into bricks and dried in the sun. This traditional building method is perfectly suited to the desert climate, keeping homes cool in the summer and warm in the winter. The structures appear to rise organically from the ground itself, their soft, rounded edges blending seamlessly with the surrounding landscape. The two main complexes, Lama on the north side and La Quima on the south, are separated by the lifeblood of the Pueblo, Red Willow Creek. This creek, flowing directly from the sacred Blue Lake high in the mountains, is the heart of the community. It provides drinking water, nourishes the fields, and plays a central role in their spiritual life. The water is considered sacred, a gift from the Creator, and its gentle murmur is a constant soothing presence in the village. You'll see small wooden bridges crossing the creek, connecting the two sides of the Pueblo and the people who live there. The Pueblo has no running water or electricity. This is a conscious choice made by the community to preserve their traditional way of life and maintain their deep connection to the natural world. Life here moves at a different rhythm, guided by the seasons and ancient customs. The people of Taos Pueblo are known for their strong artistic traditions. For centuries, they have been skilled potters, creating beautiful micaceous clay pottery that glimmers as if infused with tiny stars. This isn't just for decoration. These pots are used for cooking and storage, a practical art form passed down through generations. You'll also find artisans crafting intricate silver jewelry, leatherwork, and moccasins, each piece telling a story of cultural identity and expert craftsmanship. These traditions are not just a source of income. They are a vital way of preserving and sharing their heritage with the world. The history of Taos Pueblo is a complex tapestry of peace, conflict, and incredible perseverance. Before the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century, the people here lived in harmony with their environment, practicing agriculture and maintaining trade networks with other tribes. The arrival of the Spanish conquistadors brought profound changes and challenges. The Pueblo people were subjected to forced labor and religious conversion, leading to tension and resistance. This culminated in the Pueblo Revolt of 1680, a historic uprising in which various Pueblo communities, including Taos, united to drive the Spanish out of New Mexico. It was a remarkable, though temporary, victory that showcased the strength and solidarity of the Pueblo people. Even after the Spanish returned, the people of Taos Pueblo never fully relinquished their own spiritual beliefs. They developed a unique syncretic religion, blending aspects of Catholicism with their traditional native spirituality. You can see this reflected in the village itself. Standing near the center of the plaza is the San Geronimo Chapel, a beautiful adobe church. But this is not the original church. The ruins of the first mission church, destroyed during the Mexican-American War in 1847, stand as a solemn reminder of the Pueblo's tumultuous history and its refusal to be broken. The spiritual life of the Pueblo is deeply connected to the land, particularly the mountains that tower over the village. The Sangre de Cristo Mountains, or Blood of Christ Mountains, are considered sacred. High within these peaks lies Blue Lake, the source of Red Willow Creek and the origin point of the Taos people's creation story. For decades, the tribe fought a long and arduous legal battle with the U.S. government to regain ownership of this sacred land, which had been incorporated into a national forest. In 1970, in a landmark decision, President Nixon signed a bill returning Blue Lake and its surrounding watershed to the people of Taos Pueblo. It was a monumental victory for Native American rights and a testament to the community's unwavering determination to protect their most sacred site. As you wander the earthen pathways, you might see traditional outdoor ovens, called hornos, still used for baking bread and other foods. The smell of cedar or pinyon wood smoke might drift on the air, a scent that has filled this plaza for centuries. You might hear the distant beat of a drum or the soft sounds of the Tiwa language being spoken. These are the signs of a living culture, one that is not frozen in the past but is actively practiced and cherished every single day. The people here are private and value their traditions, so while they welcome respectful visitors, many areas and ceremonies are closed to the public to maintain their sanctity. The governance of the Pueblo is also unique. A tribal council, which includes a governor, a lieutenant governor, a war chief, and other officials, manages the community's affairs. These leaders are chosen through traditional methods, not by popular vote, and they are responsible for upholding the laws, customs, and spiritual well-being of the tribe. The war chief, in particular, is responsible for protecting the land, the resources, and the traditional way of life, a role that has been crucial to the Pueblo's survival through centuries of external pressures. Today, Taos Pueblo faces the challenges of the modern world while striving to maintain its ancient heritage. The younger generation navigates a path between two worlds, participating in the global economy and modern society while learning the language, traditions, and spiritual practices of their ancestors. Education is key, both in modern schools and through the teachings of elders who pass down invaluable cultural knowledge. The community's resilience is its greatest strength, an ability to adapt without sacrificing its core identity. As our quiet tour comes to an end and the twilight deepens, casting long shadows across the plaza, take a moment to just be present. Listen to the silence, feel the ancient energy of this place, and reflect on the incredible journey of the people who have called it home for over a millennium. Taos Pueblo is more than just a beautiful and historic village. It's a powerful symbol of human endurance, cultural pride, and the unbreakable bond between a people and their land. It teaches us the importance of respecting history, honoring tradition, and recognizing that some things are worth preserving against the relentless tide of change. Thank you for joining me on this peaceful exploration of Taos Pueblo. I hope this glimpse into its 1,000-year story has been as inspiring for you as it is for me. If you enjoyed this journey, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories from unique and incredible places around the world. Until next time, travel thoughtfully and with an open heart. Welcome back to our journey through time. Today, in Chapter 2, we venture into the heart of the American Southwest, to the Valley of Taos. This isn't just any valley. It's a landscape that has cradled life for centuries. A place where geography and spirituality are woven together into a single, breathtaking tapestry. Imagine a vast, high desert plateau, stretching out under a brilliant blue sky. This plateau, sitting at an elevation of around 7,000 feet, is a land of stark beauty. Sagebrush dots the landscape, its silvery green leaves shimmering in the sun, releasing a distinct, earthy aroma after a rare desert rain. The air here is thin, crisp, and pure. Looking east, your gaze is immediately drawn to the horizon, where a formidable wall of peaks rises dramatically from the valley floor. These are the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, the Blood of Christ Mountains. Their name is a story in itself. At sunrise and sunset, the alpine glow bathes the snow-capped peaks in hues of fiery red, orange, and deep purple. It's a daily spectacle of natural wonder, a celestial painting that has inspired awe and reverence for generations. These mountains aren't just a beautiful backdrop. They are the lifeblood of this entire region. They are the source. Nestled high within these majestic peaks, hidden from the casual observer, lies the sacred Blue Lake. For the Taos Pueblo people, this isn't just a body of water. It is their most sacred site, the very origin of their existence. The Blue Lake is the heart of a pristine watershed. From it, a network of streams and rivers begins its journey, cascading down the mountain slopes. The most vital of these is the Rio Pueblo de Taos, which flows directly through the heart of the Taos Pueblo. This watershed is the secret to why people could not only survive but thrive here for over 1,000 years. Let us break down the elements that make this place a natural fortress and a Garden of Eden, all in one. First, and most importantly, is the gift of fresh water. In an arid high-desert environment, a reliable, year-round source of water is the ultimate treasure. The snowmelt from the Sangre de Cristo Mountains feeds the Blue Lake and the rivers that flow from it, ensuring a constant supply of pure, life-giving water. This water was used for drinking, cooking, and sustaining the community. The Rio Pueblo de Taos, flowing right through the center of the village, was the central artery of daily life. Second, this abundance of water created fertile floodplains. As the rivers and streams meandered through the valley, they deposited rich, nutrient-laden silt along their banks. These alluvial soils were perfect for agriculture. The people of Taos Pueblo became master farmers, cultivating corn, beans, and squashed the three sisters of Native American agriculture. They developed sophisticated irrigation systems, channeling water from the river to their fields, transforming the desert floor into a patchwork of green, productive gardens. This agricultural bounty provided a stable food source, allowing the community to grow and flourish. Third, the geography of the valley offered natural defense. The Taos Pueblo itself is a marvel of defensive architecture, a multi-storied apartment-like structure made of adobe. But the landscape provided the first line of defense. The vast open plateau made it difficult for enemies to approach undetected. The rugged mountains at their back provided a formidable barrier, a natural wall that was nearly impossible to breach. The Pueblo was strategically situated, offering clear lines of sight across the valley while being protected by the towering peaks. This defensible terrain gave the people of Taos a sense of security, allowing them to invest their energy in culture, community, and spirituality rather than constant warfare. Finally, and perhaps most profoundly, is the spiritual significance of the land. The Taos Pueblo people do not see themselves as separate from their environment. They are an integral part of it. The mountains are not just rocks. They are sacred guardians. The Blue Lake is not just water. It is the source of all life and the place where their souls return. The entire valley is a living, breathing cathedral. Every peak, every stream, every plant and animal holds spiritual meaning. This deep, intrinsic connection to the land fostered a powerful sense of place and identity. It was this spiritual anchor that gave them the resilience to endure hardships, to maintain their traditions, and to call this valley home for a millennium. So, when we look at the Valley of Taos, we see more than just a beautiful landscape. We see a perfectly balanced ecosystem where nature provides everything needed for human settlement: fresh water, fertile land, natural protection, and a profound sense of spiritual belonging. It is a powerful testament to how a deep understanding of and respect for the environment can sustain a culture for centuries. The story of Taos is written not just in its buildings, but in the very mountains, rivers, and soil that surround it. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the Valley of Taos. It's a place where the land itself tells the story of its people. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter. We have so much more to discover together. See you next time. To truly understand the story of Taos Pueblo, we must journey back in time, tracing the footsteps of ancestors across the vast landscapes of the American Southwest. The story doesn't begin with the magnificent structures we see today, but centuries, even millennia, before, with a people known as the Ancestral Puebloans. Their legacy is etched into the canyons and mesas, a testament to their resilience, ingenuity, and deep connection to the land. For generations, these ancient people thrived in remarkable communities. Think of the sprawling, sophisticated society at Chaco Canyon, with its great houses aligned to the cosmos, a center of trade, ceremony, and culture. Or imagine the breathtaking cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, tucked securely into the rock, a testament to both architectural genius and a profound understanding of their environment. These were not just settlements. They were vibrant hubs of life, connected by extensive road networks and a shared cultural identity. But the land is ever-changing. Around the 12th and 13th centuries, a series of profound environmental shifts began to unfold. A prolonged, severe drought gripped the region, making it increasingly difficult to cultivate the corn, beans, and squash that sustained them. The reliable patterns of rain and snow that had nourished their civilization for centuries became unpredictable. Resources grew scarce, and the delicate balance they had maintained with the earth was disrupted. Faced with these immense challenges, the people of Chaco and Mesa Verde made a difficult but necessary choice. They began a series of migrations, a gradual movement away from their ancestral homes in search of more fertile ground and reliable water sources. This was not a single sudden exodus but a complex, multi-generational process. Small family groups, then larger clans, packed their belongings and their traditions and began to move, guided by oral histories, prophecies, and an intimate knowledge of the landscape. Their journey led them south and east, following the life-giving rivers that flowed from the mountains. One of the most important of these was the Rio Grande. As groups of people traveled, they established smaller, temporary settlements, testing the soil, observing the climate, and adapting their way of life to new surroundings. Archaeological evidence shows us this pattern of movement small, seasonal camps evolving into more permanent villages as they found places that could support them. It was during this period of migration that a group of Tiwa-speaking people found their way to a particularly special place, a lush valley nestled at the base of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. Here, a clear, cool stream, now known as the Rio Pueblo de Taos, flowed down from a sacred mountain. The soil was rich, the forests were abundant with game, and the river promised a consistent source of water for their crops and their community. This was the place they had been searching for. This valley wasn't just a practical choice. It was a spiritual one. The towering peak, which we now call Taos Mountain, was seen as a source of life, a sacred place that would protect and provide for them. They believed the people themselves emerged from a lake within the mountain. Finding this spot was the fulfillment of a long journey, a homecoming. Here, along the banks of the Rio Pueblo, they began to build. They brought with them the architectural knowledge passed down from their ancestors at Chaco and Mesa Verde, but they adapted it to this new environment. Instead of sandstone from the cliffs, they used the earth itself, mixing soil, water, and straw to create adobe bricks. This material was perfectly suited to the climate, keeping homes cool in the heat of summer and warm during the cold mountain winters. They built their village on both sides of the river, a symbolic and practical design. Loma, the north house, and Lolquima, the south house, rose from the earth not as separate entities, but as two halves of a whole, connected by the lifeblood of the river. The multi-storied structures grew organically, one family home built on top of another, creating a terraced, pyramid-like shape that mirrors the sacred mountain behind it. This was more than just building houses. It was the creation of a community. The village was designed for communal living. The open plazas were centers for ceremonies, social gatherings, and daily activities. The kivas, the subterranean ceremonial chambers, were the spiritual heart of the community, where religious leaders maintained the traditions and passed down knowledge. For over 1,000 years, this community has endured. The people of Taos Pueblo have faced immense challenges, drought, conflict, and the pressures of a changing world. Yet, they have held fast to their traditions, their language, and their deep connection to this place. The buildings themselves are a living history book. Each year, the adobe walls are carefully replastered by the community, a ritual that renews not just the structures, but the bonds that hold the people together. The story of Taos Pueblo is a powerful reminder of human endurance and the profound relationship between the people and their land. It is a story of a journey that began in the ancient canyons of the Ancestral Pueblones, and found its heart here, in the shadow of a sacred mountain, along the banks of a life-giving river. It is a home that has been continuously inhabited for over a millennium, a living link to a deep and resonant past. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the ancestral origins of Taos Pueblo. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more chapters in this incredible saga. We appreciate your support. Welcome back to our journey through the history of Taos Pueblo. In this chapter, we're turning back the clock to the years between AD 1000 and 1100, a time when the very first foundations of this incredible community were being laid. What did the earliest homes of Taos look like? How were they built, and what can they tell us about the people who lived there? Let's step back a millennium and find out. Imagine a landscape that is both familiar and different. The same majestic mountains, the same brilliant blue sky, but the sprawling multi-storied buildings we see today are yet to exist. Instead, scattered across the land are the beginnings of a community, small, single-story structures that were the seeds of the great Pueblo. These weren't random huts. They were carefully planned and constructed homes, built with a deep understanding of the environment. The secret to their construction, and a technique still central to Pueblo life today, is adobe. The word itself conjures images of earthy, sun-baked walls, and the process is a beautiful and practical art form. It begins with the very earth of the Taos Valley. The right kind of soil, rich in clay, is mixed with water from the Red Willow Creek. This isn't just a random muddy mix. The consistency has to be perfect. Too much water and the bricks will be weak. Too little and they won't hold together. To this earthy mixture, straw is added. The straw isn't just a filler. It acts as a binding agent, a sort of natural rebar that gives the adobe bricks their tensile strength and helps prevent cracking as they dry. Once the ingredients are thoroughly combined, often by foot, stomping and mixing until the texture is just right, the mud is packed into wooden molds. These molds, simple rectangular frames, give the adobe bricks their uniform shape. Then comes the most important ingredient of all, the sun. The molded bricks are laid out in rows upon rows under the powerful New Mexico sun. For days, sometimes weeks, they bake, slowly releasing their moisture and hardening into durable, rock-solid building blocks. This process is a testament to the ingenuity of the Ancestral Pueblo people, using the abundant natural resources around them, earth, water, straw, and sun to create shelter that was not only strong but also perfectly suited to the climate. These early houses were likely modest one-story rooms, built side by side or in small clusters. Think of them as individual family units, each with its own entrance, probably through a hole in the roof accessed by a ladder. This design offered excellent security. If a threat appeared, residents could simply pull up their ladders, turning their homes into small, defensible fortresses. The walls were thick, sometimes several feet, providing incredible insulation. In the harsh winters, the adobe walls would absorb the sun's heat during the day and radiate it back into the home at night. In the summer, those same thick walls would keep the interior surprisingly cool. It was a brilliant, passive form of climate control, perfected long before modern technology. The roofs were constructed using a layered technique. Large wooden beams called vigas were laid across the top of the adobe walls. These vigas, often made from aspen or ponderosa pine logs hauled down from the mountains, are a signature feature of Pueblo architecture. Across the vigas, smaller branches or latillas were placed in a herringbone or straight pattern. On top of the latillas, a layer of brush and grass was added, followed by a thick coating of adobe mud, creating a sturdy, waterproof ceiling. Now, let's talk about how these individual houses grew into the magnificent structures we see today. It wasn't the result of a single grand design. Instead, it was an organic process of growth, unfolding over centuries, generation by generation. A family might build a room. As their family grew, their children might build a new room right next to it, sharing a wall. Then a second story might be added on top of the first. This additive process, like a living organism growing cell by cell, is what led to the terraced, setback design that makes Taos Pueblo so iconic. This gradual expansion began to form two distinct clusters, which would eventually become the North House, known as Lama, and the South House, or La Cuima. Imagine these two areas slowly rising from the ground. What started as a small group of ground floor rooms on the north side of Red Willow Creek slowly grew upwards and outwards, with new rooms being added on top of and adjacent to existing ones. Each addition was a family's new home, a new space in the growing community. The same thing was happening on the south side of the creek. The layout wasn't just practical. It was communal. The spaces between the building clusters became shared plazas, outdoor areas for ceremonies, for children to play, for women to bake bread in outdoor ovens called hornos, and for the community to gather. The terraced rooftops also served as extra living and working space, places to dry corn or chili or simply to sit and watch the life of the Pueblo unfold below. This organic architectural style meant that the Pueblo was in a constant state of flux, of being built, repaired, and renewed. The adobe itself requires continuous maintenance. Every year, after the summer rains or winter snows, the walls must be replastered with a fresh layer of mud. This communal activity, often undertaken by the women of the Pueblo, is not just a chore. It is a vital act of cultural preservation. It is a physical and spiritual renewal of the home, connecting the current generation to the very first builders who mixed that same earth and water 1,000 years ago. So when we look at the towering walls of Loma and La Quima, we are not just seeing ancient buildings. We are seeing a living history book, written in adobe. Each layer of mud, each viga, each room tells a story of a family, of a generation, of a community growing and adapting together. The first houses of Taos, built between AD 1000 and 1100, were more than just shelters. They were the foundation of a society, the physical embodiment of a culture that valued community, sustainability, and a deep connection to the land. They were the start of a home that has now been continuously inhabited for over 1,000 years. Join us next time for Chapter 5, as we explore how these early structures evolved and grew into the multi-storied complexes we marvel at today, and delve deeper into the daily life of the people who called them home. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the heart of Taos Pueblo. Welcome back to our journey through history and culture. Today, in Chapter 5, we're exploring the living tradition of adobe architecture, a practice that beautifully demonstrates the ingenuity and deep connection to the earth of the Pueblo, peoples of the American Southwest. Imagine looking out across the high desert landscape and seeing a village that seems to rise directly from the earth itself. These iconic multi-storied structures are not just buildings. They are living testaments to community, harmony, and resilience. So, how were they built? The primary material is adobe, a mixture of earth, water, and straw. This simple yet powerful combination is formed into bricks, which are then sun-dried to a rock-hard consistency. The construction process was a communal effort, a reflection of the societal values woven into the very fabric of the village. Walls were built thick, sometimes several feet at the base, providing incredible insulation against the desert's extreme temperatures. They kept interiors cool during scorching summer days and warm during frigid winter nights. The buildings were often terraced, with each level set back from the one below it, creating the distinctive, stepped profile we recognize today. This design was not only aesthetically striking but also practical, providing defensive advantages and creating outdoor living and working spaces on the rooftops. One of the most characteristic features of this architecture is the use of vigas. These are large wooden beams, typically made from pine or aspen logs, that span the ceilings to support the roof. You can often see the ends of these vigas protruding from the exterior walls, creating a rhythmic, horizontal pattern that contrasts beautifully with the smooth, vertical surfaces of the adobe. Laid across the vigas are smaller branches or wooden slats called latillas, often arranged in herringbone or other intricate patterns, showcasing a remarkable level of craftsmanship. On top of this wooden framework, a thick layer of adobe mud and earth was packed down to form the roof and the floor of the level above. Access between these terrace levels wasn't through internal staircases as we might expect. Instead, wooden ladders were used to move from one rooftop to the next. This was a brilliant defensive strategy. In times of threat, the ladders could be pulled up, effectively turning the entire village into a fortress, protecting the community within its earthen walls. These ladders became a symbol of the people's ability to adapt and protect their way of life. Now let's go deeper, both literally and figuratively, into the spiritual heart of the village, the kiva. Kivas are subterranean ceremonial chambers, typically circular in shape, that represent a sacred connection to the underworld, the place of origin in many Pueblo belief systems. To enter a kiva, one descends a ladder through an opening in the roof, a symbolic journey back to the womb of the earth. Inside, a small hole in the floor, called a saipapu, signifies the place of emergence from the lower world. The fire pit, ventilation shaft, and seating benches were all carefully designed. Kivas were, and still are, central to the religious and social life of the community. A private space for ceremonies, councils, and the passing down of traditions from one generation to the next. The placement of kivas within the plazas underscores their importance as the spiritual anchor of the entire village. But adobe architecture is not static. It is alive and requires constant care. The earthen plaster that covers the buildings is vulnerable to wind and rain. This vulnerability, however, gives rise to one of the most beautiful expressions of community, the annual replastering. Each year, often after the summer rains, the entire community comes together to apply a fresh coat of mud plaster to the buildings. It's a massive undertaking, but also a celebration. Men, women, and children all participate. Some mix the mud to the perfect consistency, others carry it in buckets, and many, especially the women, apply it to the walls with their bare hands, smoothing it into a seamless sculptural finish. This act of replastering is more than just maintenance. It is a ritual of renewal, a physical and spiritual act that reaffirms the bonds of the community and their connection to their home. As hands work together to protect the structure, they are also reinforcing social ties and shared identity. The building breathes, changes, and is reborn each year through the collective effort of its people. It's a powerful metaphor for the community itself, flexible, resilient, and sustained by cooperation. So when we look at these ancient and still inhabited adobe structures, like those at Taos Pueblo or Ancestral Pueblo, we are seeing more than just architecture. We are seeing a worldview made manifest. The use of local, natural materials speaks to a profound respect for the environment and a sustainable way of life. The terrace design and communal spaces reflect a society built on cooperation and mutual support. The kivas represent a deep spiritual foundation, and the annual replastering demonstrates an enduring resilience and commitment to cultural continuity. This architectural tradition teaches us that a building is not merely a shelter, but a home that is woven into the life of its people, the rhythms of the seasons, and the spirit of the land itself. It is a living building tradition that continues to thrive, telling a story of harmony, community, and the timeless beauty of living with the earth. Thank you for joining me on this exploration. I hope it's given you a deeper appreciation for the profound wisdom embedded in these magnificent structures. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more chapters from our shared human story. See you next time. Let's travel to a place where water is more than just a resource. It's the very lifeblood of a people, the thread that weaves together past, present, and future. Welcome to Taos Pueblo, where the Rio Pueblo, or Red Willow Creek, flows with stories, songs, and sacred meaning. Imagine standing there, the air crisp and clear. You see the river, a shimmering ribbon of life, gracefully dividing the ancient, multi-storied adobe buildings of Lama, the North House, and La Quima, the South House. This isn't just a physical division, it's a symbolic one. The people of Taos Pueblo identify themselves by which side of the river they were born on. Are you a winter person from the north side or a summer person from the south? This simple question, rooted in the river's path, defines a fundamental part of your identity and your role within the community's ceremonial life. The sound of the water is a constant companion here. It's the soundtrack to daily life, a gentle murmur that has been heard by countless generations. For over 1,000 years, this river has sustained the people. It has watered their corn, bean, and squash fields, the three sisters of indigenous agriculture, providing the nourishment essential for survival. It has quenched their thirst, been used for cooking, and for mixing the very adobe mud that forms their homes. Every drop is precious, every use a reminder of its life-giving power. The children splash and play in its shallows, their laughter echoing the joy of generations before them, learning from a young age to respect the water that gives them so much. But the river's journey begins long before it reaches the Pueblo. Its source is a place of profound spiritual significance, a place so sacred it has been fought for, prayed for, and ultimately reclaimed. This is Blue Lake, Balwaya, nestled high in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. For the Taos people, Blue Lake is not just the source of their water. It is the source of their life itself. It is their church, their cathedral, the place where their spirits return after they pass on. It is the beginning and the end. The connection to Blue Lake is deeply personal and communal. It is the destination of an annual pilgrimage, a journey undertaken by the men of the Pueblo to reconnect with their origins, to perform ceremonies that have been passed down since time immemorial, and to ensure the continued well-being of their people and the world. The lake and the surrounding 48,000 acres of watershed are considered a living entity, a sacred space where the divine is palpable. The towering pines, the clear, deep blue water, the mountain peaks that touch the sky, it is all part of a single, interconnected, holy landscape. This is where the life of the Taos people is renewed each year. The story of Blue Lake, however, is also a story of struggle and incredible resilience. In 1906, a stroke of a pen by President Theodore Roosevelt turned this sacred land into a part of the Carson National Forest. Suddenly, the Taos people were no longer the stewards of their own church. They were visitors on their own holy ground. Access was restricted. The land was open to timber companies, mining interests, and tourists who did not understand its sanctity. The delicate spiritual balance was broken. Imagine having your most sacred place of worship turned into a public park, its resources exploited, its quiet reverence shattered by casual visitors. For the Taos people, this was an unbearable violation. It was a threat not just to their land, but to their very existence, their culture, their religion. And so began one of the most significant and inspiring struggles for indigenous rights in the 20th century. For over 60 years, the people of Taos Pueblo waged a relentless peaceful campaign to get their sacred lake back. This wasn't a fight with weapons, but with words, with unwavering faith, and with incredible persistence. Leaders like Paul Bernal traveled to Washington, D.C. time and time again, speaking to anyone who would listen. They testified before Congress, wrote letters, and built alliances with allies from all walks of life. They famously rejected a monetary settlement from the government, stating with profound clarity, "Our sacred land is not for sale. How can you put a price on your soul? On the place where your ancestors dwell?" The answer, for them, was simple: you can't. Their argument was revolutionary for its time. They weren't just asking for land. They were asking for the protection of their religious freedom. They argued that to deny them control over Blue Lake was to deny them the right to practice their religion, a right supposedly guaranteed to all Americans. This was a powerful moral and legal argument that slowly began to gain traction. Think about the courage it took. A small community of about 1,500 people taking on the full might of the United States government. They were David against Goliath. Yet they never wavered. They held on to their traditions, their ceremonies, and their unshakable belief that Blue Lake was theirs and would one day be returned. Their fight became a symbol for indigenous peoples across the country, a beacon of hope that justice was possible. Finally, after decades of tireless effort, the tide began to turn. In the late 1960s, public support grew, and powerful political figures began to champion their cause. The story of their peaceful struggle for religious freedom resonated with the American public. And then, on December 15, 1970, a historic moment arrived. President Richard Nixon signed Public Law 91-550, a bill that returned Blue Lake and its entire watershed to the full, exclusive control of Taos Pueblo. It was an unprecedented victory. For the first time, the U.S. government had returned a significant piece of land to an indigenous nation for religious and cultural reasons, rather than for economic development. When the news reached the Pueblo, the church bells rang out, a sound of pure joy and vindication that echoed through the valley. The elders wept, not just for the victory, but in memory of all those who had fought and prayed for this day but did not live to see it. Today, the Blue Lake watershed is a protected tribal sanctuary. No one is allowed to enter without the permission of the Pueblo. The logging has stopped, the tourists are gone, and the silence and sanctity of the lake have been restored. The annual pilgrimage continues, ensuring that the spiritual connection that has sustained the Taos people for a millennium remains unbroken. The water that flows down from the mountain as the Rio Pueblo is now, once again, wholly sacred from its source to its use in the village. So when you see the Rio Pueblo flowing through the heart of Taos, remember its journey. It is a journey that starts in a wholly protected place. It's a journey that tells a story of identity, of culture, of survival. And it is a journey that embodies a monumental struggle for justice and the triumphant power of faith. The water is the lifeblood, and in the story of Blue Lake, it is also the symbol of a people's unbreakable spirit. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of Taos Pueblo. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more chapters on the rich tapestry of human culture and history. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through time. Today, we step into a world painted in shades of green and gold, a world shaped by the patient hands of early farmers. This is Chapter 7, Agriculture and Early Daily Life. Let's close our eyes for a moment and imagine a valley bathed in the soft morning light. The air is cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and growing things. Along the valley floor, a network of small, hand-dug irrigation ditches glimmers, channeling precious water from a nearby stream. These ditches are the lifeblood of the community, a testament to their ingenuity and deep understanding of the land. Beside these waterways, fields of corn stand tall, their green stalks reaching for the sun. The corn is not just a single crop. It's part of a trio, a family of plants known as the Three Sisters. First, the corn provides a natural trellis. Climbing its sturdy stalks are the twisting vines of beans, their leaves unfurling to catch the light. These beans are clever collaborators, pulling nitrogen from the air and enriching the soil, a vital nutrient that the hungry corn needs to thrive. And sheltering the ground below with broad, shady leaves is the squash. Its large leaves act as a living mulch, keeping the soil moist, cool, and free from weeds. This isn't just farming. It's a symphony of cooperation, a system perfected over generations, where each plant supports the others in a cycle of mutual benefit. The day begins early. As the sun climbs higher, its warmth spreading across the fields, you can hear the rustle of leaves and the low murmur of voices. People move through the rows, their movements practiced and unhurried. They tend to the young plants, gently pulling any competing weeds and ensuring the water flows freely through the ditches. It's a rhythmic, meditative work, a dance between human hands and the natural world. There's a profound connection here, a sense of belonging to this place, of being a part of its life cycle. But life isn't confined to the cultivated fields. The surrounding wilderness is also a generous provider. As some tend the crops, others venture into the foothills and woodlands. Here, the world offers a different kind of bounty. Knowledge passed down through countless generations guides their hands as they gather wild foods. They know which berries are sweet and juicy, which roots are starchy and nourishing, and which greens add a peppery bite to a meal. They move with respect, taking only what they need, always leaving enough for the plants to replenish and for the animals who share this habitat. Every plant has a purpose, every season a unique gift. Spring might offer tender shoots and new leaves, while late summer brings forth a wealth of nuts and seeds. This gathering is not just about sustenance. It's about maintaining a relationship with the wild, a conversation with the earth. Meanwhile, the hunters move silently through the forests and across the mesas. They are masters of tracking, their eyes reading the story written in a broken twig or a faint print in the dust. They might be hunting for deer, rabbits, or wild turkeys, animals that will provide not just meat, but also hides for clothing, bones for tools, and sinew for thread. The hunt is a serious affair, imbued with reverence. Success means more than just a meal. It's a gift from the natural world, received with gratitude. Every part of the animal is used, nothing is wasted. This philosophy of using everything, of finding value in every piece, is a core principle that extends to all aspects of their lives. As the afternoon sun reaches its peak, the rhythm of the day shifts. The intense heat encourages a move to shadier spots, to the heart of the village. Here, under the shade of a woven ramada or within the cool, earthen walls of a home, another kind of creation takes place. The air fills with a different set of sounds. The gentle thud of clay being worked, the soft scrape of a polishing stone, the rhythmic click-clack of a loom. Pottery making is an art form born from necessity. Clay, dug from special deposits in the earth, is mixed with water and a temper, perhaps sand or crushed pottery shards, to give it strength. A potter sits, their hands covered in the cool, damp clay. With skill and patience, they begin to build a pot, not on a wheel, but by coiling long ropes of clay, one on top of the other. They pinch and smooth the coils together, their fingers knowing just the right pressure to create a seamless, elegant form. The pot might be a large vessel for storing water or grain, its shape wide and generous. Or it could be a smaller bowl for eating, or a cooking pot designed to withstand the heat of the fire. Once the shape is perfected, the surface becomes a canvas. Using a slip of fine colored clay or a mineral-based paint, they decorate the pot with intricate designs. These aren't random patterns. They are symbols, stories, and prayers. Geometric shapes, stylized animals, and representations of clouds, rain, and lightning all tell a story of their world, their beliefs, and their connection to the cosmos. After drying in the sun, the pots are carefully fired, a transformative process where earth and fire meet to create something hard, durable, and beautiful. A finished pot is more than a container. It's a piece of art, a vessel of culture. Nearby, another rhythmic activity is underway: weaving. The process begins long before the threads are on the loom. It starts with harvesting raw materials. It could be cotton, carefully cultivated in the fields alongside the corn and squash. Or perhaps fibers from the yucca plant, which require soaking and pounding to release their strong, fibrous threads. The fibers are then cleaned and spun into yarn, a time-consuming process done with a simple hand spindle. The spindle whirls, twisting the loose fibers into a tight, strong thread. The yarn might be left in its natural off-white color, or it could be dyed using pigments derived from plants, minerals, and even insects, creating a palette of rich, earthy colors, deep reds, golden yellows, and dark browns. With the yarn prepared, the weaver sits before a loom. It might be a simple backstrap loom, where the tension is controlled by the weaver's own body, or a larger, more permanent vertical loom. The warp threads are stretched taut, forming the foundation of the textile. Then, with a shuttle in hand, the weaver begins to pass the weft thread back and forth, over and under, over and under. The rhythmic beat of the batten, a tool used to pack the weft threads tightly, echoes the steady beat of a heart. Patterns emerge as if by magic, a complex interplay of color and texture. They might be weaving a warm blanket to ward off the chill of the desert night, a sturdy strap for carrying a heavy load, or a finely decorated piece of clothing. Like pottery, these textiles are filled with meaning, their patterns reflecting the weaver's skill and the cultural identity of the community. The days flow into one another, guided by the sun and the seasons. Summer is a time of intense work in the fields, of tending and watching the crops grow. It's a time of abundance in the wild, of long days and warm nights. As the corn ripens and the squash hardens, the community comes together for the harvest. This is a time of celebration and relief, the culmination of a season's hard work. The harvested corn, beans, and squash are carefully dried and stored, put away to provide sustenance through the leaner months of winter. Winter brings a change of pace. The fields lie dormant, resting under a blanket of frost or snow. The days are shorter, the air colder. This is a time for indoor work, for mending tools, for weaving blankets, and for telling stories. Families gather around the fire, its warmth and light pushing back the darkness. Elders share the stories of their ancestors, tales of creation, of heroes, and of the spirits that inhabit the world. These stories are not just entertainment. They are the thread that binds the generations, passing on knowledge, values, and a sense of who they are. It's a time for reflection, for community, and for a well-earned rest. Then, as the days begin to lengthen and the first signs of green return to the land, the cycle begins anew. The fields are prepared, the seeds are blessed, and the community once again turns its face to the soil, ready to partner with the earth for another season. This life, dictated by the rhythms of agriculture and the turning of the year, is one of hard work, but it is also one of deep security and profound meaning. It's a life lived in harmony with the land, a life of balance, creativity, and connection. Thank you for joining me in this quiet reflection on a life lived by the earth. I hope you enjoyed this journey. If you did, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more chapters from our shared past. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through the heart of Taos Pueblo. Today, we're diving deep into Chapter 8, Community, Clans, and Social Structure. We'll explore the intricate social fabric that has held this community together for centuries. What does it take to survive and thrive in the high desert of New Mexico? The answer lies in the people and their unique way of life. At the core of Taos Pueblo society is a complex system of clans. These aren't just family names. They are deep-rooted kinship groups that define a person's identity, responsibilities, and relationships within the community. Each clan has its own history, its own ceremonies, and its own specific duties that contribute to the well-being of the whole. It's a beautiful web of connections, where everyone knows their place and their purpose. This clan-based organization is the bedrock upon which everything else is built, a foundation of shared heritage and mutual support. One of the most fascinating aspects of Taos Pueblo's social structure is its matrilineal system. This means that lineage, inheritance, and clan membership are traced through the mother's side of the family. Property, particularly homes and land, traditionally passes from mother to daughter. This empowers women within the community, placing them at the center of the family and the clan. Think about it. The homes themselves, the iconic adobe structures we see, are often owned and maintained by the women, passed down through generations. This system ensures stability and continuity, with women acting as the anchors of the household and the keepers of ancestral traditions. It's a powerful testament to the revered role of women in Pueblo culture. Now, let's talk about leadership. How is a community of this size and complexity governed? The traditional leadership structure is just as unique as its clan system. At the top is the governor, who serves as the secular or civil leader. The governor and their staff are responsible for the day-to-day affairs of the pueblo, dealing with the outside world and managing business matters. They are the public face of the community. This position is typically appointed annually, a process steeped in tradition and deliberation. But the secular government is only one part of the equation. Working alongside the governor is the war chief and their staff. The war chief's role is deeply rooted in the protection of the community, both physically and spiritually. They are the guardians of the land, the resources, and the cultural integrity of the pueblo. The war chief oversees hunting activities, manages access to the sacred Blue Lake wilderness, and ensures that traditions are respected and upheld. Their authority is immense, and their responsibility is to maintain the balance and security of the community. This dual system of leadership, the governor for external affairs and the war chief for internal protection and tradition, creates a powerful and effective governance model. So who makes the big decisions? That's where the Pueblo Council comes in. The council is comprised of respected male elders, typically former governors and war chiefs, who have a lifetime of experience and wisdom. This group serves as the main governing body, making major decisions for the community through consensus. They are the ultimate authority, deliberating on all matters of importance, from land use to religious ceremonies. Their decisions are guided by a deep understanding of tradition and an unwavering commitment to the future of the Taos people. This council represents the collective wisdom of generations, ensuring that every choice is made with careful consideration for the well-being of the entire community. Now imagine living through the harsh, snow-filled winters of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, or the long, dry summers of the high desert. Survival wasn't just possible. It was ensured through an incredible spirit of cooperation. This is where the social structure truly shines. The clan system, the leadership, the council, it all fosters a deep sense of shared responsibility. Food was and still is shared. Labor for building and repairs is a communal effort. During the harvest, everyone works together to bring in the crops. When a family needs help, the community provides it. This cooperation wasn't just a nice idea. It was a fundamental survival strategy. The interconnectedness of the clans meant that no one was left to fend for themselves. If one family's crops failed, another would share their bounty. If a home needed replastering with adobe mud, neighbors would arrive to help, turning the chore into a social event. This principle of mutual aid, known as kiva, is woven into every aspect of life. It's a system built on trust, reciprocity, and the understanding that the strength of the individual is tied directly to the strength of the community. It's how they endured droughts, conflicts, and the pressures of the outside world for over 1,000 years. The social structure also plays a vital role in the transmission of knowledge. Elders teach the youth not just through formal instruction, but through daily life and participation in community activities. Children learn their responsibilities to their clan and their pueblo by watching and doing. They learn about farming, hunting, building, and the intricate details of ceremonies simply by being part of the community. This hands-on immersive education ensures that the cultural knowledge, the language, and the values of Taos Pueblo are passed down seamlessly from one generation to the next. The entire community acts as a school, and every elder is a teacher. The roles are clearly defined. The men have their duties, often related to farming, hunting, and governance. The women have theirs, centered around the home, the family, and the clan lineage, but these roles are complementary, not hierarchical. Both are seen as essential for the community to function. This balance creates a harmonious society where everyone contributes and everyone is valued. It's a system that has proven to be incredibly resilient and adaptable over time. So as we look at the magnificent north and south houses of Taos Pueblo, remember that what we are seeing is more than just ancient architecture. We are seeing a living, breathing community, a testament to the power of a social structure built on kinship, cooperation, and shared purpose. The clans, the matrilineal heritage, the unique leadership, and the council all work together to create a society that is strong, resilient, and deeply connected to its past and its future. It is a powerful lesson in what it means to live in community. Thank you for joining me for this deep dive into the social fabric of Taos Pueblo. The strength of this community is an inspiration to us all. If you enjoyed this chapter, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next exploration. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to our journey through history. Today, in Chapter 9, we explore the rich tapestry of spiritual life and ceremonies that form the very heart of this ancient community. Life here is woven into the rhythms of the earth, guided by a deep and abiding connection to the land, the ancestors, and the changing seasons. Central to this spiritual life are the ceremonies, vibrant expressions of faith, gratitude, and community cohesion. These are not just events. They are living traditions passed down through countless generations. Imagine the community gathering, the air filled with the sound of rhythmic drumming and heartfelt songs. Dancers, adorned in symbolic attire that reflects the natural world, move with purpose and grace. Each step, each gesture, tells a story, a prayer for rain, a celebration of a successful harvest, or a reenactment of a creation story. These dances are a powerful way to maintain balance with the spiritual world and to ensure the well-being of the people. They are a visual symphony of belief, connecting the past, present, and future. The sky itself is a sacred calendar. The movements of the sun, moon, and stars are carefully observed, marking crucial times for ceremony and agriculture. The solstices, in particular, hold immense significance. The winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, is a time of renewal and hope, a promise of the sun's return and the coming of longer days. The summer solstice, the longest day, celebrates the peak of the sun's power and the abundance of life. These observances are profound moments of reflection, aligning the community with the grand cyclical patterns of the cosmos. Feasting, storytelling, and special rituals mark these turning points of the year, reinforcing the people's place within the universe. At the very center of this ceremonial world is a special sacred space known as the kiva. More than just a building, the kiva is a symbolic representation of the cosmos and the people's emergence story. It is a portal between the physical and spiritual realms. Typically built underground, entering a kiva is like returning to the womb of Mother Earth. Its architecture is rich with symbolism, from the ladder that represents the journey from a lower world to the small hole in the floor that signifies the place of origin. Inside the kiva, the atmosphere is one of reverence and focus. It's a place for important community meetings, for passing down sacred knowledge from elders to the youth, and for preparing for major ceremonies. The air hums with the energy of prayers and chants that have been spoken within its walls for centuries. It is here that the spiritual leaders guide the community and where boys are initiated into the responsibilities of manhood. The kiva is the spiritual anchor of the village, a protected space where the connection to the ancestors and the divine is most palpable. It's a testament to a worldview where the sacred is not separate from daily life, but is deeply embedded within it. This intricate web of spiritual practices ensures the continuity of the culture. Through stories told around the fire, through the shared experience of dance, and through the quiet contemplation within the kiva, each generation learns what it means to belong to their community. They learn their history, their values, and their responsibilities to one another and to the world around them. It's a worldview founded on respect for the elders who hold the wisdom, for the children who are the future, and for the land that provides everything. The spiritual life is a continuous dialogue with the natural world. The rain clouds, the growing corn, the deer in the forest all are seen as relatives, part of a larger interconnected family. Prayers and offerings are made not just in times of need, but as a constant expression of gratitude. This reciprocal relationship ensures harmony. The people care for the land, and in return, the land cares for the people. This philosophy is reflected in every aspect of life, from farming techniques that honor the soil to hunting practices that show respect for the animal. Imagine the strength and resilience this worldview provides. In times of drought or hardship, it is this shared faith that binds the community together, giving them the courage to persevere. The ceremonies are not performances for an audience. They are vital acts of participation in the ongoing creation of the world. Everyone has a role to play, from the youngest child to the most respected elder. This collective effort reinforces a powerful sense of identity and purpose. The spiritual life and ceremonies we've discussed are the soul of this culture. They are a beautiful and profound system of belief that has sustained the people for millennia, guiding them through the seasons of the year and the seasons of life. It's a powerful reminder that for many cultures, spirituality isn't a separate part of existence, it is existence itself. Thank you so much for joining us for this chapter. Your curiosity and respect for these traditions are what make this channel so special. If you found this exploration meaningful, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more journeys into our shared human story. We'll see you in the next chapter. Welcome back to our channel, where we explore the vibrant tapestry of history. Today, we re-journeying to a place that was the heartbeat of trade in the American Southwest for centuries, the magnificent Taos Pueblo. Tucked away in the mountains of what is now northern New Mexico, this ancient community wasn't just a home. It was a bustling marketplace, a crossroads where different worlds met. For hundreds of years, long before European contact, Taos Pueblo was a central hub for commerce. Imagine the scene. Late summer, the air is crisp, and people from diverse cultures are gathering for the annual trade fairs. From the east, the Plains tribes groups like the Apache, Comanche, and Kiowa would travel vast distances. They brought with them the bounty of the Great Plains, immense stacks of buffalo hides, essential for clothing and shelter, along with dried buffalo meat, a vital source of protein that could be stored for the winter. These weren't just goods. They were the lifeblood of the Plains people, and they were highly sought after. In return, the people of Taos Pueblo, masters of their environment, offered their own unique treasures. Their agricultural prowess was legendary. They would trade surplus corn, a staple food, along with beans and squash. This was more than just food. It was a guarantee against the unpredictability of the hunt. But the exchange didn't stop there. The Pueblo people were also incredible artisans. Their distinctive micaceous pottery, which sparkled as if infused with gold, was not only beautiful but also practical for cooking. They were also skilled weavers, creating durable cotton textiles and blankets that were highly valued for their craftsmanship. Imagine a Comanche trader wrapped in a finely woven Pueblo blanket, returning to the plains with a supply of corn to last the winter. This was the essence of the Taos Trade Fair, a mutually beneficial exchange that fostered relationships and ensured survival. The trade networks extending from Taos were incredibly far-reaching, like the spokes of a giant wheel. To the west, trade routes stretched into present-day Arizona, connecting Taos with other Pueblo communities like the Zuni and Hopi. From these areas came exquisite turquoise, a stone held in high spiritual regard, as well as seashells from the Pacific coast, which traveled inland through a complex chain of traders. Think about that for a moment. A shell from the Pacific Ocean ending up in a village in the high desert of New Mexico. It's a testament to the sophistication of these ancient networks. To the south, the routes plunged deep into what is now Mexico. From these regions came exotic goods that would have been marvels in Taos. Colorful parrot and macaw feathers, prized for ceremonial regalia, made their way north. So did valuable materials like copper bells and other metalwork, showcasing the advanced metallurgy of Mesoamerican cultures. These southern connections linked the Pueblo world to the vast and complex civilizations of central Mexico, creating a flow of goods, ideas, and cultural influences that enriched everyone involved. And of course, to the east, the trade routes extended far out onto the Great Plains. The relationship with the Plains tribes was central to Taos's identity as a trade center. It was a dynamic that oscillated between partnership and conflict, but the annual trade fairs were a time of truce, a sanctioned period for peaceful exchange. The Taos people offered the stability and agricultural products of a settled society, while the Plains tribes offered the resources of a nomadic hunting lifestyle. This symbiotic relationship was a cornerstone of the regional economy for generations. These trade fairs were more than just economic events. They were massive social and cultural gatherings. People from different linguistic and cultural backgrounds came together, not just to trade goods, but to exchange news, arrange marriages, conduct ceremonies, and share stories. It was a place where ideas and innovations spread. New farming techniques, different artistic styles, and evolving spiritual practices could all be transmitted at these vibrant gatherings. Taos Pueblo was a true melting pot, a place where the static world of the village met the mobile world of the plains, and where influences from the distant south met the realities of the north. Even after the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century, Taos maintained its importance as a trade hub. The Spanish introduced new goods into the network, like metal tools, horses, and sheep, which dramatically reshaped the dynamics of trade. Horses, in particular, revolutionized life for the Plains tribes, allowing them to hunt buffalo more effectively and travel greater distances. Taos became a key point of exchange between the Spanish colonial economy and the independent native economies that still thrived around it. The annual fairs continued, now with Spanish traders joining the mix, creating an even more complex and multicultural marketplace. Despite the pressures of colonization, the spirit of Taos as a place of meeting and exchange endured. So, when you look at the stunning, multi-storied adobe structures of Taos Pueblo today, remember that you're not just seeing a beautiful, ancient village. You're looking at the epicenter of a continental trade network. It was a place of connection, a vibrant hub that linked the mountains, the plains, and the deserts. It was here that pottery from the Rio Grande was exchanged for hides from the plains, where turquoise from the west met feathers from the south. The legacy of Taos Pueblo is a powerful reminder of the deep and interconnected history of the Americas, a story of trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange that has been unfolding for 1,000 years. Thank you so much for joining us on this historical journey. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the past. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious. Imagine a world that has existed in much the same way for centuries. For the Pueblo people of the Southwest, the 1500s would bring a change so profound, it would reshape their universe forever. This is the story of first contact, a moment suspended in time, filled with caution, curiosity, and the dawn of a new, complex era. Before the 1500s, the Pueblo world was a vibrant network of interconnected communities. Trade routes crisscrossed the vast landscape, linking villages and different language groups. Turquoise from one region was exchanged for pottery from another. Cotton textiles, obsidian for tools, and macaw feathers from the south all moved along these ancient pathways. Life was governed by the cycles of the seasons, the rhythm of agriculture, and deep-seated spiritual traditions that connected the people to the land. It was a world that was stable, yet dynamic, with its own internal politics, alliances, and conflicts. Then, on the horizon, something entirely new appeared. The arrival of the Spanish in the 1500s wasn't a sudden invasion at first, but a slow, cautious entry into this established world. Imagine seeing them for the first time. Men clad in gleaming metal, carrying strange weapons that harnessed the power of fire and thunder. And perhaps most astonishingly, they rode upon large, powerful animals, the likes of which had never been seen before: horses. These initial encounters were likely filled with a mix of awe and apprehension. Who were these newcomers? Were they gods or men? What did they want? The Spanish, for their part, were driven by their own powerful motivations: God, gold, and glory. They sought to expand their empire, find legendary cities of wealth, and convert the native populations to Christianity. This first contact immediately began to alter the delicate balance of the Pueblo world. The old trade networks were disrupted. Suddenly, new goods entered the system. Metal tools, wool blankets, and other European items became valuable commodities. The Spanish weren't just another trading partner. They sought to control the entire system. They demanded tribute in the form of corn, cotton, and labor, placing a heavy burden on communities that were already living a subsistence lifestyle. The introduction of new animals had a seismic impact. Horses, in particular, were a revelation. For the Spanish, they were a tool of conquest, giving them incredible mobility and a psychological advantage. But over time, as these animals became part of the native world, they transformed it. For groups like the Apache and Navajo, and later some Pueblo people, the horse revolutionized hunting, travel, and warfare. It expanded territories and created new power dynamics across the entire Southwest. Sheep and cattle, also brought by the Spanish, introduced new sources of food and materials like wool, but they also competed with native crops for land and water. The greatest challenge, however, was invisible. The Spanish unknowingly brought with them diseases to which the Pueblo people had no immunity. Smallpox, measles, and influenza swept through the villages with devastating speed, wiping out entire communities. The loss of life was catastrophic, not just in numbers, but in the loss of elders, leaders, and keepers of tradition. This biological catastrophe weakened the Pueblo communities from within, making them more vulnerable to Spanish pressures. Faced with these immense challenges, the Pueblo people had to navigate a difficult path. Their response was not one of simple submission. It was a complex and sophisticated blend of diplomacy, adaptation, and resistance. Diplomacy was the first line of defense. Pueblo leaders would meet with Spanish officials, attempting to understand their intentions and negotiate for the best possible terms. They would offer gifts, provide food, and try to establish peaceful relationships, hoping to preserve their autonomy and way of life. They were masters of observing and learning, quickly understanding the Spanish hierarchy and trying to use it to their advantage. Adaptation was a key survival strategy. The Pueblo people were incredibly resilient and adaptable. They selectively incorporated new tools, crops, and animals into their existing culture. They learned to work with metal, to raise sheep for wool, and to use horses for their own purposes. They even adapted to the new religion in their own way. While many were forced to convert to Catholicism, they didn't simply abandon their traditional beliefs. Instead, they often blended the two. Saints might be associated with traditional spirits, and Catholic rituals were practiced alongside ancient ceremonies, often in secret. This syncretism was a quiet but powerful form of cultural survival, allowing them to maintain their identity under the surface of Spanish rule. But when diplomacy and adaptation were not enough, there was resistance. This resistance could be subtle, continuing secret religious ceremonies, intentionally slowing down labor, or giving misleading information to Spanish authorities. It was a day-to-day struggle to maintain their cultural integrity. At other times, resistance was overt and violent. Small-scale revolts and attacks on Spanish settlers or missions were not uncommon. These acts of defiance were desperate attempts to push back against the constant demands for labor, the suppression of their religion, and the loss of their land and resources. This period of first contact in the 1500s set the stage for the next 3 centuries of Spanish colonial rule. It was a slow, often brutal collision of two worlds. For the Pueblo communities, it was a time of immense loss and hardship, but it was also a testament to their incredible strength and resilience. They navigated this new reality with intelligence and courage, using a sophisticated toolkit of diplomacy, adaptation, and resistance to ensure that their culture, their traditions, and their people would endure. The story of this first encounter is not just about the arrival of the Spanish. It's about the remarkable survival and perseverance of the Pueblo people in the face of world-altering change. Thanks for watching. If you found this history interesting, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories from the past. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through history. Today, we re-diving into a powerful and often overlooked chapter, the story of the San Jeronimo mission at Taos Pueblo, and the monumental event that reshaped the entire Southwest, Pueblo Revolt of 1680. This isn't just a story about a building. It's a story of cultural collision, resistance, and the incredible resilience of a people. So let's set the scene. It's the early 17th century. Spanish Franciscan missionaries are making their way north, along the Rio Grande, with a zealous goal: to convert the indigenous peoples of the region to Christianity. When they arrived at the ancient and thriving Taos Pueblo, they didn't just bring new ideas. They brought a plan to physically manifest their presence. This led to the construction of the first mission church, dedicated to Saint Jerome or San Jeronimo. Now, imagine this from the perspective of the Taos people. For centuries, their lives, their ceremonies, their entire worldview were deeply interwoven with the land, the seasons, and their multi-story adobe homes that have stood for generations. Then, these newcomers arrive. The construction of the church itself was a monumental undertaking. It was built using the same materials as the Pueblo adobe, mud and timber, but its purpose and design were entirely foreign. The labor for this massive structure was provided by the Pueblo people themselves. Under the direction of the friars, they were compelled to build this symbol of a new, imposed faith. This wasn't just about constructing a building. It was about redirecting labor away from their own fields, homes, and community needs. The church rose, a stark, European-style silhouette against the traditional architecture of the Pueblo, a constant, physical reminder of the Spanish presence and their intentions. Inside the church, the friars held mass, taught catechism, and performed baptisms. For the Spanish, this was a triumph, a beacon of civilization in what they considered a remote wilderness. But for the Pueblo people, it was a source of immense tension. Their traditional religious practices, which had sustained them for countless generations, were now suppressed. Kivas, their sacred underground chambers, were desecrated. Religious leaders were punished, and ceremonies were forbidden. The friars saw these ancient traditions as idolatry, and they were determined to stamp them out. This created a dual existence for many Pueblo people. Publicly, they might attend Mass and appear to adopt Christian ways. But privately, in secret, they fought to keep their own beliefs and ceremonies alive. Imagine the pressure of living under that constant scrutiny where your very identity is deemed wrong and must be hidden. The resentment simmered. It wasn't just about religion. The Spanish also imposed the encomienda system, a brutal form of tribute where Pueblo communities were forced to give the colonists a share of their crops and provide labor. This economic exploitation, combined with the religious persecution, created a powder keg of discontent across all the pueblos. For decades, each pueblo faced these pressures largely on their own. But the Spanish had unknowingly created a common enemy and a shared experience of oppression. The seeds of rebellion were sown, and they were quietly being watered in villages from Taos in the north to the Hopi mesas in the west. A leader emerged from the San Juan Pueblo, a visionary named Pope. He had personally experienced the brutality of Spanish rule, having been one of 47 Pueblo leaders arrested and flogged for practicing their traditional religion. Pope began to organize one of the most sophisticated and successful rebellions in North American history. He understood that unity was the key. He sent runners to over 24 different Pueblo communities, spread across hundreds of miles. These runners carried knotted cords of yucca fiber. Each knot represented a day, until the coordinated uprising was to begin. This was a brilliant system of communication, a silent, secret calendar that every Pueblo could understand. It was a plan for a simultaneous, unified strike. The day was set for August 11, 1680. However, the Spanish got wind of the plot, forcing the leaders to act a day early. On August 10, 1680, the Pueblo Revolt erupted across the region. At Taos, the people rose up. The San Jeronimo Church, that potent symbol of Spanish domination and the suppression of their culture, became a primary target. The church was attacked and destroyed. The resident friars were killed. This scene was repeated in pueblos all along the Rio Grande. It was a decisive and powerful rejection of Spanish rule. The United Pueblo Forces, a coalition of different language groups and villages, then converged on the Spanish capital of Santa Fe. They laid siege to the city, cutting off the water supply and pinning the colonists inside the palace of the governors. After several days of fighting, the Spanish governor, Antonio de Oterman, realized their position was hopeless. He and the remaining Spanish colonists, about 1,000 people, fled, beginning a long, desperate retreat south to El Paso del Norte, which is modern-day Ciudad Juarez. For the first time in nearly a century, the land of the Pueblos was free from foreign rule. This was an incredible achievement. The Pueblo Revolt of 1680 is the only instance of indigenous people successfully expelling a colonial power from their homeland in North America. Following the revolt, Pope and the other leaders worked to erase the Spanish influence. They urged the people to cleanse themselves in the rivers, to wash away their baptisms, to abandon Christian names, and to restore the kivas and the ancient ceremonies. The destruction of the San Jeronimo Church at Taos wasn't just an act of violence. It was a profound act of reclamation. It was the people tearing down the symbol of their oppression and reclaiming their sacred space, their autonomy, and their cultural identity. It was a declaration that their way of life, their beliefs, and their history mattered. For 12 years, the Pueblos lived independently. It wasn't a perfect utopia. Old rivalries between villages sometimes resurfaced, and they faced challenges like drought and raids from neighboring tribes. But they were in control of their own destiny. The Spanish did eventually return in 1692, in what is known as the bloodless reconquest, although it was far from peaceful in the years that followed. However, the world they returned to was different. The Spanish had learned a hard lesson. They were never again able to impose the same level of brutal religious and economic control. The Pueblo Revolt forced the Spanish to adopt a more tolerant policy. They had to acknowledge, to some extent, the strength and resilience of the Pueblo people. The encomienda system was not reinstated, and a level of religious syncretism was allowed to develop, where Pueblo and Catholic beliefs could coexist, a practice that continues in some communities to this day. So when we look at the ruins of that first San Jeronimo church, we're not just looking at rubble. We're looking at a monument to a pivotal moment in history. It represents the courage and unity of the Pueblo people, who risked everything to preserve their culture and their freedom. The Pueblo Revolt of 1680 stands as a powerful testament to the enduring human spirit and the unbreakable connection between a people and their land. It's a story of survival, a story of unity, and a story that shaped the very soul of the American Southwest. Thank you so much for joining me for this important chapter. If you found this story as moving as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden corners of history. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring. Welcome to our journey through history as we explore Chapter 13, the Pueblo Revolt, a profound fight for continuity. For decades, the Pueblo people of what is now New Mexico endured the heavy hand of Spanish colonization. Their spiritual practices were outlawed, their leaders punished, and their people forced into labor. The Spanish demanded tribute in the form of crops and textiles, leaving many communities on the brink of starvation, all while trying to erase centuries of tradition and belief. But the spirit of the Pueblo people was far from broken. Beneath the surface of compliance, a current of resistance was steadily growing, waiting for the right moment to reclaim what had been taken. This resistance was not a sudden outburst, but a carefully orchestrated movement. At its heart was a Tewa medicine man from Okeoinga, formerly known as San Juan Pueblo, named Pope. Having suffered directly under Spanish oppression, he was one of 47 Pueblo leaders publicly flogged and accused of sorcery in 1675. Pope was driven by a powerful vision for his people, just freedom. After his release, he retreated to the remote and strategic location of Taos Pueblo, a place known for its strong-willed people and its physical distance from the Spanish capital in Santa Fe. It was here, in the kivas of Taos, that the seeds of a unified rebellion were sown. From Taos, Pope began to travel, meeting with leaders from different pueblos. This was an incredibly complex task. The Pueblo world was not a single unified nation. It was a collection of independent villages, each with its own leaders, dialects, and customs. There were Tewa, Tiwa, Tano, Karays, Toa, Zuni, and Hopi speakers spread across a vast landscape. Forging an alliance among them required immense trust and a shared, desperate goal: the complete removal of the Spanish and the restoration of their traditional way of life. Pope and other leaders like Domingo Naranjo from Santa Clara Pueblo and Luis Tupatu of Picuras Pueblo worked tirelessly, building a network of communication that spanned hundreds of miles. The plan was ingenious and relied on a simple yet effective method of communication. The leaders devised a system of knotted cords made from yucca fiber. Runners were dispatched from Toos to over 24 pueblos carrying these cords. Each knot represented one day until the coordinated uprising was to begin. The Pueblo leaders would untie one knot each morning. When the last knot was untied, it would be the signal to strike simultaneously, catching the Spanish completely off guard. This method ensured that all the villages from Taos in the north to the Hopi Mesas in the west would act as one. The date was set for August 11, 1680. However, the Spanish were not entirely oblivious. Rumors of an impending revolt had reached Governor Antonio de Otterman in Santa Fe. On August 9, just 2 days before the planned date, Spanish authorities captured 2 young runners from Taos Pueblo who were carrying the knotted cords. Under torture, they revealed the plan. The secret was out. When news of their capture reached the Pueblo leaders, they were faced with a critical decision. Waiting was no longer an option. The element of surprise was compromised, and delay meant the Spanish would have time to prepare and retaliate. The leaders made a bold choice. They decided to launch the revolt immediately, a day earlier than planned on August 10th. The morning of August 10th, 1680, broke with a coordinated fury that the Spanish could never have imagined. Warriors from Taos and Picuras Pueblo were among the first to rise up, quickly joined by the Tewa villages. All across the Rio Grande Valley, Pueblo fighters targeted the symbols of Spanish oppression. They laid siege to Spanish settlements, attacked missions, destroyed churches, and targeted the colonists and priests who had worked for generations to dismantle their culture. The violence was a direct response to the decades of cultural and physical violence they had endured. It was a reclaiming of their sacred lands and a violent rejection of foreign rule. The Spanish colonists, scattered and isolated on farms and in small settlements, were completely overwhelmed. Many were killed in the initial wave of the uprising. Survivors fled toward the 2 main Spanish centers, Santa Fe in the north and Isleta in the south. In Santa Fe, Governor Otterman and about 1,000 Spanish settlers found themselves trapped in the palace of the governors. A combined force of thousands of Pueblo warriors representing numerous villages laid siege to the capital. They cut off the city's water supply and engaged in fierce fighting for 9 days. The Spanish were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and running out of resources. Faced with certain annihilation, Governor Otterman made a desperate decision. On August 21st, he and the remaining colonists broke through the siege and began a long, grueling retreat southward down the Rio Grande. They expected to join with Spanish forces from Isleta, but those colonists, believing everyone in the north had been killed, had already fled south toward El Paso del Norte, which is modern-day Ciudad Juarez. The retreat was harrowing. Pursued by Pueblo warriors, the Spanish column, numbering nearly 2,000 people, struggled with hunger, thirst, and exhaustion. By the time they reached El Paso, they were a defeated and demoralized group. For the first time in nearly a century, the land of the Pueblos was free from Spanish control. With the Spanish gone, the Pueblo people immediately began the process of restoration. Pope, emerging as a central figure, directed a systematic reversal of Spanish influence. He ordered the cleansing of all things Catholic and the revival of the old ways. Churches were burned or repurposed, Christian names were abandoned, and marriages performed by priests were dissolved. Kivas, the sacred ceremonial chambers that the Spanish had tried to destroy, were rebuilt and reopened. The people were encouraged to return to their traditional farming practices, ceremonies, and social structures. It was a period of cultural purification and rebirth, an attempt to turn back the clock to a time before colonization. This era of independence, which lasted for 12 years, was not without its own challenges. The unity that had been so crucial for the revolt began to fray. The alliance of diverse pueblos, once held together by a common enemy, now faced internal conflicts. Pope's leadership, which some viewed as increasingly authoritarian and mirroring the Spanish ways he had fought against, caused friction. Furthermore, a severe drought crippled agriculture, and raids from neighboring Apache and Ute tribes, which had been a problem even during Spanish rule, intensified. These internal and external pressures weakened the collective strength of the Pueblos. Despite these difficulties, the 12 years of independence from 1680 to 1692 were a critical period of cultural revitalization. It was a time when a generation grew up speaking their native languages freely, participating in ceremonies without fear, and living according to the traditions of their ancestors. This period allowed Pueblo culture to re-root itself so deeply that when the Spanish did return, it could not be eradicated. The revolt ensured the survival of Pueblo identity, religion, and sovereignty in a way that was unique among a lot of indigenous peoples in the Americas. In 1692, a new Spanish force, led by Don Diego de Vargas, arrived to attempt a reconquest. But the landscape had changed. The Spanish had learned a harsh lesson. While they did re-establish control, it was a different kind of rule. The reconquest was met with resistance, but it was ultimately successful due to the disunity among the Pueblos and the sheer military force of the Spanish. However, the Spanish crown realized that ruling by force alone was unsustainable. They were forced to make significant concessions. They abolished the encomienda system of forced labor and tribute. They also adopted a policy of greater tolerance toward Pueblo religion and culture, allowing ceremonies to be practiced alongside Catholicism. The Pueblo Revolt of 1680 stands as a testament to the resilience and determination of a people fighting for their existence. It was the most successful indigenous uprising against a colonizing power in North American history. The revolt fundamentally reshaped the future of the American Southwest. It ensured that the Pueblo people would not be culturally assimilated, but would instead maintain their unique languages, traditions, and sovereign identities to this day. The legacy of Pope and the thousands of warriors who fought for their freedom is alive in the vibrant culture of the 19 Pueblos of New Mexico and the Hopi tribe in Arizona. Their fight for continuity was not in vain. It was a victory for the ages. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more journeys into our shared past. Welcome back to our series on the history of the Southwest. Today, we're diving into Chapter 14, exploring a complex and transformative period. The Spanish returned to New Mexico in the 18th and 19th centuries. After the Pueblo Revolt of 1680, which we covered in our last video, the Spanish were expelled for 12 years. Their return in 1692, led by Don Diego de Vargas, wasn't a simple restoration of the old order. Instead, It marked the beginning of a new era defined by cautious coexistence, negotiation, and profound cultural exchange. The initial years were anything but peaceful. While some pueblos negotiated a bloodless re-entry, others fiercely resisted, leading to years of conflict. However, both sides eventually realized that continuous warfare was unsustainable. The Spanish were overextended, facing threats from nomadic tribes like the Apache, Comanche, and Ute. The Pueblo people, weary of conflict and also threatened by the same raiders, recognized the potential benefits of a strategic alliance. This shared threat became a powerful catalyst, forcing a grudging respect and a pragmatic partnership. It was a fragile peace, built not on friendship, but on mutual need and a shared desire for survival in a harsh and dangerous land. This new reality fundamentally altered the relationship between the Spanish colonists and the Pueblo people. The brutal encomienda system, which had forced Pueblo labor, was officially abolished. The Spanish also adopted a more tolerant stance towards Pueblo religious practices. While the Franciscans were still present and encouraged conversion, they could no longer violently suppress traditional ceremonies. This allowed Pueblo culture to persist, often blending with Catholic traditions. Kivas, the sacred ceremonial chambers, continued to be used sometimes secretly, sometimes more openly, ensuring the survival of ancient spiritual beliefs. This syncretism became a hallmark of New Mexican culture, where Catholic saints might be celebrated alongside traditional dances, creating a unique spiritual landscape that endures to this day. One of the most significant aspects of this era was the explosion of trade and cultural exchange. New goods flowed in both directions, transforming daily life. The Spanish introduced wheat fruit trees like apricots and peaches, and new metal tools, including sharper axes and more effective plows, which changed agriculture and construction. In return, the Pueblo people shared their deep knowledge of the land, introducing the Spanish to native crops like corn, beans, and squash, and teaching them effective dry farming techniques essential for survival in the arid climate. The horse, originally brought by the Spanish, had become an integral part of life for both Spanish colonists and many Pueblo communities, revolutionizing hunting, travel, and warfare. This exchange wasn't just about survival. It was about creating a new blended material culture. This cultural fusion is perhaps most visible in the architecture of the period. The iconic New Mexican style we see today is a direct result of this collaboration. Pueblo building techniques, using sun-dried adobe bricks, flat roofs, and vigas large wooden beams, were combined with Spanish designs. The Spanish introduced features like covered porches or portales, interior courtyards, and the distinctive horno, an outdoor beehive-shaped oven perfect for baking bread. Churches built during this time are prime examples of this architectural marriage. San Francisco de Asís Mission Church in Ranchos de Taos, with its massive adobe buttresses and sculpted earthen walls, looks more like a natural landform than a European cathedral. It's a powerful symbol of two worlds merging, creating something entirely new and uniquely New Mexican. The construction of these buildings required cooperation, with Spanish and Pueblo masons and laborers working side by side, sharing skills and creating a shared built environment. Social structures also began to blur. While a formal caste system existed on paper, the realities of life on a remote frontier led to significant intermingling. Intermarriage between Spanish settlers and Pueblo people became increasingly common. These unions were often strategic, a way to build alliances, secure land, and strengthen community ties. The children of these marriages, known as mestizos, bridged the two cultures. They were often bilingual and bicultural, navigating the complexities of both Spanish and Pueblo worlds. This created a society with a fluidity that was rare in other parts of the Spanish Empire. Kinship networks crossed ethnic lines, weaving a complex social fabric that further solidified the interdependence of the two communities. Over generations, these connections deepened, making it harder to draw clear lines between Spanish and Pueblo identity. Despite this close interaction and the pressures of colonization, the Pueblo people demonstrated incredible resilience and ingenuity in preserving their sovereignty. They never fully submitted to Spanish rule. Instead, they became masters of adaptation and resistance. On the surface, they complied with Spanish demands. They adopted Spanish-style governors for each pueblo, a system imposed by the colonial administration. However, this was largely for show. Behind the scenes, the traditional tribal councils and religious leaders, the caciques, continued to hold the real authority. They made the important decisions for the community, managed land, and organized religious life. They used the Spanish legal system to their advantage, becoming skilled litigants who frequently took land grant disputes to court, and often won. They protected their core lands, their water rights, and their cultural integrity by working within the system designed to control them. This dual system of governance allowed them to maintain a remarkable degree of autonomy. As the 18th century gave way to the 19th, this unique society faced new challenges. The Comanche, having mastered equestrian warfare, became the dominant power on the southern plains, launching devastating raids on both Spanish and Pueblo settlements. This constant threat further solidified the Hispano-Pueblo alliance, as they formed joint militias and built fortified plazas and defensive towers, or torreones, for mutual protection. The era also saw the opening of the Santa Fe Trail in 1821, following Mexico's independence from Spain. This new trade route brought a flood of American goods, merchants, and ideas into New Mexico, fundamentally altering the region's economy and orientation. The isolated frontier was suddenly connected to the burgeoning United States, setting the stage for the next major chapter in its history, the American occupation. In conclusion, the period after the Spanish return was not simply a reconquest. It was a complex negotiation that forged a new society. Through cautious coexistence, strategic alliances, and extensive cultural exchange in trade, architecture, and family, a unique southwestern identity was born. The Pueblo people, through their incredible resilience and adaptability, managed to preserve their sovereignty and cultural core in the face of immense pressure. This era of conflict and collaboration laid the groundwork for the multicultural landscape of New Mexico we know today. It's a story of survival, adaptation, and the creation of a vibrant new world from the ashes of conflict. Thanks for watching. If you found this chapter of history as fascinating as I do, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the stories that shaped our world. Join us next time as we explore the arrival of the Americans and the dawn of a new era on the Santa Fe Trail. See you then. Hello and welcome back to our deep dive into the history of Taos Pueblo. In this chapter, we're stepping into the 19th century, a time of monumental change as the American frontier rolled west and collided with the ancient world of the Taos Valley. The arrival of the Santa Fe Trail wasn't just about wagons and goods. It was a current of change that would reshape everything. Before the 1820s, the Taos Valley existed in a delicate balance. Spanish colonial rule had introduced new challenges, but the Taos people had adapted, maintaining their traditions and their sovereignty over their ancestral lands. Including the sacred Blue Lake, the annual Taos Trade Fair was a hub of exchange, a place where Plains tribes, Spanish settlers, and Pueblo peoples met, traded, and coexisted, however complexly. This was a world defined by ancient footpaths, seasonal cycles, and deep-rooted cultural practices. The mountains weren't just a backdrop. They were the source of life, spirituality, and identity. Then came the trail. In 1821, Mexico won its independence from Spain, and almost immediately, the Santa Fe Trail was blazed open. This wasn't a gentle trickle of newcomers, it was a flood. American traders, trappers, and adventurers poured into New Mexico, drawn by the promise of wealth from beaver pelts and new markets. Taos, strategically located at the trail's northern end, transformed almost overnight. What was once a regional center of indigenous and Spanish trade became a boisterous, chaotic frontier town. The first wave was the mountain men legendary figures like Kit Carson and Charles Bent. They were drawn to the rich trapping grounds of the Southern Rockies. Many of them integrated into the local culture, marrying into prominent Hispanic and Pueblo families. Kit Carson himself married a Taos woman. This created a complex web of new relationships, blurring the lines between cultures. But this integration also brought new pressures. The demand for beaver pelts led to overtrapping, disrupting the local ecosystem that the Taos people had managed sustainably for centuries. The influx of American goods like metal tools and firearms changed the local economy and traditional ways of life. The character of the valley began to shift. The once dominant rhythm of Pueblo life was now competing with the raucous energy of the American frontier. The trade fairs became larger and more commercialized, but also more volatile. Whiskey flowed freely, leading to social disruption and conflicts that were previously rare. The Taos people watched as their quiet valley became a crossroads of ambition, commerce, and often lawlessness. This period was also marked by shifting borders and allegiances. For a brief time, From 1821 to 1846, Taos was part of Mexico. But the American presence was growing stronger every year. The concept of manifest destiny, the belief in America's divine right to expand westward, was gaining momentum back east. Explorers and military expeditions like those led by John C. Fremont began mapping the territory, not just for scientific knowledge but for strategic advantage. These weren't just visitors. They were the precursors to conquest. The Taos people, along with their Hispanic neighbors, found themselves caught in the middle of a geopolitical struggle between Mexico and the United States. They had navigated centuries of Spanish rule, but this new force was different. It was more aggressive, more organized, and backed by a rapidly growing nation. The tension was palpable. Many feared, rightly, that American expansion would threaten their land, their water, and their very way of life. The breaking point came with the Mexican-American War in 1846. General Stephen Kearny marched his Army of the West into Santa Fe and claimed New Mexico for the United States without a single shot being fired. He appointed Charles Bent, the longtime American trader from Taos, as the first civilian governor. For many in New Mexico, both Hispanic and Pueblo, this was an illegitimate occupation. They had not been consulted, and their allegiance was suddenly transferred to a foreign power. Resentment festered, and in January of 1847, it exploded into the Taos Revolt. This was a joint uprising of Hispanic and Taos Pueblo people, a desperate attempt to resist American domination. They targeted Governor Bent and other American officials in Taos, driven by a deep-seated fear of losing their land and their cultural autonomy. The revolt was a brutal, violent affair, reflecting the high stakes of the conflict. The American military response was swift and overwhelming. Colonel Sterling Price marched his troops north from Santa Fe. The rebels made their last stand at the San Geronimo Catholic Church, right at the heart of Taos Pueblo. The U.S. Army besieged the Pueblo, eventually using cannons to breach the thick adobe walls of the church. The battle was a massacre. Hundreds of rebels, including many women and children seeking refuge inside the church, were killed. The church, a symbol of a different era of colonial influence, was left in ruins, a stark and tragic monument to the violent birth of American rule in the region. The aftermath of the Taos Revolt was devastating. The leaders of the uprising were captured and executed. The American military solidified its control over New Mexico, and the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, in 1848, officially made the region part of the United States. For the Taos people, this marked the beginning of a new and difficult chapter. They were now living under a third colonial power. The American system of land ownership was completely alien to Pueblo worldview. The U.S. government began the process of creating land grants and reservations, which often failed to recognize the full extent of traditional Pueblo territories. This led to a century-long struggle over land and resources. One of the most painful losses was the official seizure of their sacred Blue Lake and the surrounding watershed. In 1906, President Theodore Roosevelt incorporated it into the Carson National Forest, designating it as a public recreational area. For the Taos people, this was a profound desecration. The source of their spiritual life, the very heart of their origin story, was now open to logging, mining, and tourism. Despite the immense pressure, the violence, and the loss of land, the spirit of the Taos people did not break. This is a story of incredible resilience. They held fast to their traditions, their language, and their religious practices, often in secret. The kivas remained the center of community life. The ceremonial cycles continued. The oral histories were passed down from generation to generation, keeping the memory of their history and their connection to the land alive. The fight to reclaim Blue Lake became the defining struggle of the 20th century for Taos Pueblo. It was a legal and political battle that lasted for more than 60 years. It was a testament to their perseverance, their unwavering belief in the justice of their cause, and their deep spiritual commitment to their ancestral land. They lobbied Congress, they fought in the courts, and they told their story to the American public, building a coalition of support. The era of the American frontier brought profound and often tragic changes to the Taos Valley. It was a period of conflict, dispossession, and cultural assault. But it also forged a new chapter in the long history of Taos Pueblo's resilience. They endured, they adapted, and they never surrendered their identity. Their struggle set the stage for the battles and triumphs of the 20th century, which we will explore in our next chapter, the remarkable story of how they finally brought their sacred Blue Lake home. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you found this chapter insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Your support helps us continue to tell these vital stories. We'll see you next time. Welcome back to our journey through the history of New Mexico. Today, we're exploring a deeply complex and painful chapter, the 1847 Taos Revolt. To understand what happened, we need to go back to 1846. The Mexican-American War was underway, and the United States Army, led by General Stephen Kearny, marched into Santa Fe and claimed New Mexico for the U.S. without a single shot being fired. On the surface, it seemed like a peaceful transition. But beneath that calm surface, tensions were simmering. For generations, the people of New Mexico, the Hispano families who had lived on the land for centuries, and the native Pueblo communities who had been there, since time immemorial, had their own distinct cultures, traditions, and ways of life. Suddenly, they found themselves under the rule of a new foreign government. The American soldiers and officials who arrived were strangers. They spoke a different language, practiced different customs, and held different beliefs about land and law. This wasn't just a change of flags. It was a fundamental shift that threatened their entire world. The new American governor, Charles Bent, was a well-known trader who had lived in Taos for years. He was married to a prominent local woman, but he was still seen by many as an outsider, an American who represented this new, unwelcome authority. Many Nuevo Mexicanos felt their loyalty still lay with Mexico. They worried about losing their land grants, their political voice, and their cultural identity. The Pueblo people, including the proud community at Taos Pueblo, had a long history of resisting outside control, from the Spanish centuries before to the Mexicans, and now the Americans. They valued their sovereignty and their ancient traditions above all else. These feelings of resentment, fear, and a desire to protect their way of life began to coalesce. Secret meetings were held, plans were made. Prominent Hispano leaders like Tomas Romero and Pablo Montoya, along with leaders from Taos Pueblo like Tomasito, began organizing a resistance. They saw the American occupation not as a liberation but as an invasion. Their goal was simple and profound: to drive the Americans out and reclaim their homeland. The stage was set in the winter of 1846 and early 1847 for a confrontation that would leave lasting scars on the region. The spark ignited on January 19, 1847, in the town of Taos. Governor Charles Bent had returned to his home there from Santa Fe, perhaps underestimating the depth of the local anger. A crowd, a powerful mix of Hispano residents and warriors from Taos Pueblo, descended on his house. The resistance had turned into open revolt. The violence that erupted was swift and brutal. Governor Bent was killed, along with several other American officials and sympathizers in the area. The revolt quickly spread. Insurgents moved south, gathering support from other towns and pueblos along the way, their numbers swelling as they marched toward the capital, Santa Fe, hoping to expel the American forces entirely. The American military, however, was not going to give up its newly acquired territories so easily. Colonel Sterling Price, the commander of the U.S. forces in Santa Fe, quickly organized a response. He gathered a force of over 300 soldiers and volunteer militiamen and marched north to meet the rebels. The two sides first clashed at Santa Cruz de la Cagada and then again at Embudo Pass. The insurgents, armed mostly with traditional weapons like bows, arrows, and old muskets, were brave and determined. But they were no match for the superior firepower and discipline of the U.S. Army's cannons and rifles. The American forces pushed the rebels back, forcing them to retreat to their final stronghold, Taos Pueblo. The people of the Pueblo had long been a symbol of resistance, and now their ancient, multi-storied adobe village became a fortress. The rebels, men, women, and children, took refuge within the thick adobe walls of the San Geronimo de Taos church. This was the second church built at the Pueblo after the first was destroyed. During the Pueblo Revolt of 1680, it was not just a building. It was a sacred center of their community. They believed its massive, 7-foot-thick walls would protect them. On February 3, 1847, Colonel Price's army arrived at Taos Pueblo and laid siege. For hours, they bombarded the church with cannon fire, but the strong adobe walls absorbed the impact. The cannons seemed to have little effect. Frustrated, the American soldiers changed tactics. They moved closer, chopping through the thick wooden doors with axes and setting the roof on fire. Then, they threw explosive shells down into the church, which was crowded with terrified families seeking sanctuary. The The scene inside was one of unimaginable horror and chaos. As the church burned, the insurgents and their families were forced to flee the inferno, only to be met by a volley of rifle fire from the surrounding soldiers. The battle turned into a massacre. Over 150 of the defenders were killed in the fighting, with many more wounded. The beautiful, historic San Geronimo Church was left a smoldering ruin. Its scarred, broken walls stand today at Taos Pueblo as a silent, powerful monument to this tragic day. They are a permanent reminder of the cost of the revolt and the immense loss suffered by the community. In the aftermath, the American military response was harsh. The leaders of the revolt who were captured, including Pablo Montoya and Tomasito, were put on trial. These trials were overseen by judges who were friends of the slain Governor Bent, and the juries were composed of their supporters. The outcome was a foregone conclusion. About 15 men were found guilty of treason and murder and were publicly hanged in the Taos Plaza. It was a final, brutal assertion of American authority. The charge of treason itself was controversial, as the accused were not yet U.S. citizens, and many still considered themselves citizens of Mexico. The Taos Revolt of 1847 was crushed, but the memory of it has endured. It wasn't just a simple rebellion. It was a desperate, complex, and tragic struggle by people trying to defend their homes, their culture, and their right to self-determination against a powerful invading force. The event left deep, painful wounds that shaped the relationship between Anglo-Americans, Hispanos, and Pueblo people for generations. It highlights the often overlooked violence that accompanied American westward expansion and serves as a solemn reminder that the history of this land is written in conflict and resilience, sorrow and survival. Visiting the ruins of the San Geronimo Church at Taos Pueblo today is a moving experience, connecting us directly to the profound sacrifices made by those who fought to protect their world. Thank you for watching. If you found this history meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories from our past. Welcome back to our journey through the history of Taos Pueblo. In this chapter, we're diving into the 20th century, a transformative period when the outside world truly discovered this ancient community. Imagine for centuries, Taos Pueblo existed in relative seclusion, a world unto itself. But as the 1800s gave way to the 1900s, the wheels of change began to turn literally. The story of this discovery often begins with two artists from back east, Ernest Blumenschein and Bert Phillips. In 1898, their wagon broke down just north of Taos. While one of them went for repairs, the other was left to take in the scenery. And what they saw changed everything. The light, the landscape, the ancient architecture of the Pueblo. It was a revelation. They were so captivated that they decided to stay, becoming the first members of what would soon be known as the Taos Society of Artists. Word travels fast, especially when it's about a place of such unique beauty. Soon, a steady stream of artists, writers, and thinkers began to make their way to northern New Mexico, all drawn by the same magnetic pull. People like the famous painter Georgia O'Keeffe, who found endless inspiration in the stark, beautiful forms of the desert and the adobe buildings. Her paintings of the San Francisco de Asís Mission Church in Ranchos de Taos are iconic, capturing the spirit of the region. Then there was the writer D.H. Lawrence, who lived on a nearby ranch in the 1920s. He wrote about the powerful, almost spiritual energy of the landscape and its people. His presence, along with that of his patron, the arts socialite Mabel Dodge Lujan, turned Taos into a kind of bohemian mecca. Lujan's salon was legendary, a gathering place for creative minds from all over the world, including the photographer Ansel Adams and the psychologist Carl Jung. They all came seeking something authentic, something real, that they felt was missing from the modern, industrialized world. And at the heart of it all was Taos Pueblo. Photographers, in particular, were mesmerized. The early 20th century was the golden age of photography, and figures like Edwards Curtis arrived with their cameras, determined to document what they saw as a vanishing way of life. Their images of the Pueblo and its people are stunning, but they also raise complex questions. These photos preserved a moment in time, but they often presented a romanticized, static version of native life, sometimes overlooking the community's own vibrant, living culture. For the people of Taos Pueblo, this sudden influx of attention was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it brought economic opportunities. The artists and tourists wanted to buy pottery, weavings, and jewelry. This new market helped support families and encouraged the continuation of traditional art forms. The community wisely began to manage this new phenomenon, welcoming visitors but also setting clear boundaries. This was the beginning of tourism as we know it at the Pueblo. The community had to perform a delicate balancing act. How do you share your home with the world without losing your soul? How do you welcome visitors while protecting sacred ceremonies and private family life? The tribal council established rules for visitors, areas that were off-limits, restrictions on photography, and a code of conduct to ensure respect for their traditions. It was a forward-thinking approach to cultural preservation, a model that many other indigenous communities would later adopt. This wasn't just about managing tourists. It was about asserting sovereignty. The 20th century was also a period of intense political struggle for the people of Taos Pueblo. For decades, they had been fighting for the return of their sacred lands, including the pristine wilderness area around Blue Lake, which had been seized by the U.S. government and made part of a national forest. The income from tourism and the attention from famous artists and writers helped give them a platform. It brought national awareness to their cause. The artists and writers who settled in Taos often became advocates for the Pueblo. They used their influence to speak out against government policies and support the Pueblo's fight for its land and water rights. Mabel Dodge Lujan, for example, was a vocal supporter of the Pueblo's struggle and used her connections to lobby on their behalf in Washington, D.C. This alliance between the artistic community and the Pueblo was a powerful force. So, the 20th century was this incredible mix of art, culture, commerce, and politics. The world discovered Taos Pueblo, but the Pueblo never lost control of its own story. They navigated the currents of change with wisdom and strength, turning the world's fascination into a tool for their own survival and cultural renaissance. They embraced new economic paths while fiercely protecting the traditions that had sustained them for 1,000 years. They managed to be both a world-renowned destination and a deeply private, sacred home. This era shaped the Taos we know today, a unique blend of cultures, a place where art and ancient tradition live side by side. It's a testament to the resilience and foresight of the Taos people, who met the 20th century on their own terms. Join us next time as we explore the culmination of their struggle, the historic return of Blue Lake and the continuing story of Taos Pueblo in the modern era. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Imagine a place so sacred, its waters are the source of all life. For the Taos Pueblo people of New Mexico, this place is real. It's called Blue Lake, and for them it's not just a body of water. It's the heart of their culture, their religion, and their very existence. For centuries, they made pilgrimages to its shores for ceremonies that have sustained their community since time immemorial. But in 1906, everything changed. Without consultation, without consent, the United States government seized the land, including Blue Lake, and designated it as part of the Carson National Forest. President Theodore Roosevelt, acting under the banner of conservation, effectively cut the Taos people off from their spiritual home. The U.S. Forest Service took control, promoting logging, grazing, and even tourism in this sacred area. Imagine seeing your most holy site turned into a public picnic spot. For the Taos people, it was a profound desecration. But they did not give up. For over 60 years, they waged a relentless, peaceful, and determined fight to get their land back. This wasn't just a legal battle. It was a spiritual quest. Their elders knew that without Blue Lake, their traditions would wither, their culture would fade, and their connection to their creator would be severed. So they began a journey that would take them from their humble pueblo to the highest halls of power in Washington, D.C. Their first attempts were met with resistance. The government offered monetary compensation, but the Taos people weren't interested in money. As one of their leaders famously said, "You cannot sell what is sacred." They didn't want payment for their loss. They wanted their source of life returned. They wanted the land itself. This was a concept that many in the government struggled to understand. For them, land was a commodity, something to be bought, sold, or managed for economic benefit. For the Taos Pueblo, it was family. The fight gained momentum in the 1950s and 60s, a time of growing civil rights awareness across the country. The Taos Pueblo elders, led by the quiet but unyielding Paul Bernal, began to share their story with the wider American public. They wrote letters, gave interviews, and traveled the nation to build support. They explained that their religion was not something practiced once a week in a building, but was lived every day, intertwined with the land of their ancestors. Blue Lake was their church, their cathedral, their everything. Their message began to resonate. Newspapers started covering the story. Religious groups, environmentalists, and ordinary citizens started to rally behind the Taos cause. They saw the injustice of a government policy that claimed to protect religious freedom while simultaneously denying the Taos people access to the very source of their faith. The debate intensified. Opponents argued that giving the land back would set a dangerous precedent. They claimed that if the Taos Pueblo got their land, every other tribe would demand the return of national parks and forests. They painted a picture of chaos, arguing that public lands were for all Americans, not just one group. But the Taos Pueblo leaders calmly and persistently dismantled these arguments. They weren't asking for all of America back. They were asking for 48,000 acres of rugged, high-altitude wilderness that was, by all accounts, the center of their spiritual world. They weren't planning to develop it or exploit it. They simply wanted to protect it, to keep it pristine for their ceremonies, just as their ancestors had for 1,000 years. Their argument was simple and powerful. True religious freedom meant respecting their unique relationship with this specific place. The battle finally reached the U.S. Congress. The Taos Pueblo needed an act of Congress to transfer the land from the Forest Service back to them, in trust. It was an uphill battle. Powerful senators and logging interests stood in their way. But the Taos people had an incredible ally: public opinion. The story of their peaceful 60-year struggle had captured the nation's heart. In 1970, the final debate took place on the Senate floor. Senators from across the political spectrum spoke in favor of the bill. They spoke of justice, of righting a historical wrong, and of upholding the nation's promise of religious liberty for all. They shared the words of the Taos elders, who had explained with simple eloquence why this land was so vital to their survival. And then, the moment of truth arrived. The bill was put to a vote. It passed. It was a stunning victory. After 64 long years, the fight was over. Later that year, President Richard Nixon, standing beside Taos Pueblo leaders in the White House, signed the bill into law. In his remarks, he called it a bill that represents justice. He acknowledged that the government was returning to the Taos people what was rightfully theirs, correcting a mistake made decades earlier. For the Taos elders present, some of whom had dedicated their entire lives to this cause, it was a moment of profound, overwhelming emotion. The return of Blue Lake was more than just a land transfer. It was a landmark moment in American history. For the first time, the U.S. government returned a significant piece of land to a Native American tribe for purely religious and cultural reasons. It affirmed that Native American spiritual practices, which are intrinsically tied to the land, deserve the same protection as any other religion. It set a new precedent, not of chaos, but of justice and respect. It showed that a small, determined community, armed with the power of their convictions, could challenge the might of the government and win. Today, Blue Lake is protected, held in trust for the Taos Pueblo people. It remains a place of ceremony, prayer, and renewal, close to the public, just as it should be. The water that flows from the lake continues to nourish the people and their fields, a physical and spiritual lifeline. The story of its return is a powerful testament to the resilience of the Taos Pueblo people, a lesson in perseverance, and an inspiring chapter in the ongoing struggle for Native American rights. It reminds us all that some things are more valuable than money, and that the fight to protect what is sacred is always a fight worth having. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as moving as I did, please like, subscribe, and share it with others. Welcome back to our journey through history and culture. Today, we're stepping into the present to visit a place where the past is not just remembered, but lived every single day. We're talking about Taos Pueblo, a living community that has stood for over 1,000 years. This isn't a museum or a historical relic. It's a vibrant, thriving home. Nestled in the shadow of the sacred Taos Mountain in northern New Mexico, the multi-storied adobe buildings of the Pueblo look almost exactly as they did centuries ago. This is by design. The people of Taos Pueblo have made a conscious choice to preserve their traditional way of life, creating a powerful link between their ancestors and future generations. One of the most remarkable aspects of life within the old village, or the main pueblo, is the intentional limitation on modern utilities. You won't find running water or electricity here. This isn't due to a lack of access, but a deliberate decision to maintain the sanctity and historical integrity of their ancestral home. Water is still drawn from the Rio Pueblo de Taos, the crystal-clear stream that flows right through the center of the village. This river is the lifeblood of the community, providing drinking water and symbolizing the continuity of life itself. Imagine waking up not to the buzz of an alarm clock, but to the first light of the sun painting the adobe walls in shades of gold and rose. Instead of flipping a switch, you might light a fire in a traditional corner fireplace, known as a kiva fireplace, for warmth and for cooking. This connection to the natural elements is a fundamental part of the Taos Pueblo worldview. It fosters a deep respect for the land, the seasons, and the resources that sustain them. But who lives here today? It's a mix. Around 150 people live within the ancient Pueblo walls year-round, carrying on the traditions of their families in the most direct way possible. However, many more families, nearly 2,000 tribal members, live in more modern homes on the Pueblo's wider lands. Even for those living in houses with electricity and plumbing, the old village remains the heart and soul of the community. Many families maintain their ancestral homes within the Pueblo, returning for ceremonial occasions, family gatherings, and to simply reconnect with their heritage. It's a beautiful duality, bridging the ancient and the modern. The rhythm of life at Taos Pueblo is guided by a ceremonial calendar that has been passed down through generations. This calendar dictates the timing of religious ceremonies, feast days, and communal activities. These events are not performances for tourists. They are deeply sacred and are central to the spiritual and social fabric of the community. While some events, like the famous Christmas Eve procession or San Geronimo feast day, are open to the public, many others are private, meant only for the community. This careful balance allows them to share their culture while protecting its most sacred aspects. This commitment to tradition extends to their governance. Taos Pueblo is a sovereign nation. They have their own tribal government, with a governor, a war chief, and a tribal council, who make decisions for the community. This autonomy is fiercely protected and is a key reason why their culture has remained so strong and unbroken. They manage their own lands, their resources, and their laws, ensuring that the future of the Pueblo is in the hands of its people. The economy is a blend of old and new as well. Many residents are incredible artists, renowned for their micaceous pottery, which has a distinctive sparkle, as well as their work in silver, painting, and leather. You'll find small shops and galleries within the Pueblo where you can purchase these beautiful, handcrafted items directly from the artists. This not only provides a livelihood but also carries on artistic traditions that are hundreds of years old. Tourism is also a part of the economy, but it's managed on their terms. Visitors are welcomed as guests and are asked to respect the rules and privacy of the residents. Living at Taos Pueblo today is about balance. It's about honoring the ancestors and the ancient ways while navigating the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. It's about the warmth of a family gathering in a home without electricity, the sound of traditional drums echoing through the plaza, and the sight of children learning the stories in a language that has been spoken on this land for a millennium. The resilience of the Taos people is truly inspiring. They have withstood colonization, pressures to assimilate, and the encroachment of the modern world, yet they remain. They haven't just survived. They have thrived by holding fast to their core values, their connection to the land, and their deep sense of community. When you visit Taos Pueblo, you are stepping into a living story, a testament to the enduring power of culture and the human spirit. It's a powerful reminder that some traditions are timeless, and that the past can and should have a place in our present. Thank you so much for joining me on this visit to the incredible community of Taos Pueblo. I hope it's given you a deeper appreciation for this unique corner of the world. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more stories about the amazing cultures that enrich our planet. We'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to our journey through the heart of New Mexico. Today we step into a world where art is life, and life is art. We're exploring Chapter 20, The Artisans of Taos Pueblo, a community where ancient traditions are not just preserved, but are breathed into existence every single day. Imagine the feel of cool, damp clay being drawn from the sacred mountains. This is where the story of Taos Pueblo pottery begins. It's a tradition carried on the shoulders of generations, a knowledge passed from grandmother to grandchild. The potters don't use wheels. Instead, they practice hand coiling, a method as old as the Pueblo itself. Watch as practiced hands roll out long snakes of clay, carefully layering them one on top of another. The form of a pot begins to rise, not from a machine, but from memory and touch. The clay is smoothed with a polished stone, a family heirloom that has burnished countless vessels before it. The signature feature of Taos pottery is its beautiful micaceous clay, which glitters with tiny flecks of mica. When fired, these pots shimmer with a soft internal light, as if holding a piece of the sun-drenched earth from which they came. Each piece is unique, a testament to the potter's spirit and the story of their people. They aren't just objects. They are vessels of culture. Now let's turn our attention to the gleam of silver and the vibrant hues of turquoise. The jewelry artisans of Taos Pueblo are masters of their craft, transforming metal and stone into wearable art. Much like the potters, their skills are a legacy, learned through observation and practice at the side of their elders. The techniques of silversmithing, while influenced by Spanish and other traders centuries ago, have been adapted and perfected into a style that is distinctly Taos. You can see the meticulous process of cutting, stamping, and setting stones. Each design carries meaning. A feather might symbolize a connection to the sky, while a bear track represents strength and healing. The turquoise they use is carefully selected, its color and matrix telling its own story of a specific mine, a specific piece of the Southwest. When you hold a piece of Taos jewelry, you're not just holding silver and stone. You're holding a piece of the landscape, a symbol of resilience and a link in an unbroken chain of artistry. The creative spirit of Taos Pueblo also finds its voice on canvas. The painters here draw inspiration from the world around them, the dramatic landscapes, the ceremonial dances, and the quiet moments of daily life within the ancient walls. Their art is a visual language, a way of sharing their worldview. Some artists work in a traditional style with flat, stylized figures that echo the ancient petroglyphs found throughout the region. Others have embraced contemporary mediums and techniques, blending modern expression with timeless themes. You might see a painting of the iconic multistoried Pueblo glowing in the afternoon sun, or a dynamic depiction of a deer dance, capturing the movement and energy of the ceremony. Through their art, these painters offer a window into their culture, inviting us to see the world through their eyes, a world where the spiritual and the physical are deeply intertwined. Finally, we listen for the heartbeat of the Pueblo, the resonant sound of the drum. The drum makers of Taos are revered artisans. Their craft begins with a journey into the aspen groves of the surrounding mountains to select the perfect log. The process is one of respect for the tree and the life it has lived. The log is hollowed out by hand, a slow meditative process of carving and shaping. The drum heads are made from animal hide cow, elk, or deer, which is stretched taut and laced together with rawhide strips. The sound of a Taos drum is deep, powerful, and said to carry prayers to the heavens. It is the pulse of ceremony, the rhythm of the dance, and the voice of the community. To watch a drum being made is to witness a sacred act, a transformation of natural elements into an instrument of profound spiritual significance. Holding one, you can feel the vibration, the life force within it. From the shimmering pottery and intricate jewelry to the evocative paintings and the resonant drums, the art of Taos Pueblo is more than just decoration. It is a living, breathing part of the culture. It is a form of prayer, a way of storytelling, and a vital connection to the ancestors who walked this land 1,000 years ago. The knowledge is not written in books but is held in the hands and hearts of the people. It's passed down through whispered instructions, through patient demonstration, and through the shared experience of creating. Every piece made by an artisan of Taos Pueblo carries with it the spirit of this incredible place, a testament to the enduring power of tradition and the beauty of a life lived in harmony with the earth. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Taos Pueblo's remarkable artisans. Their work is a gift, a beautiful reminder that the most profound art comes from the soul. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories from the heart of our world. We'll see you in the next chapter. Step into a world where time is measured not just by the clock, but by the turning of the seasons, the gathering of communities, and the sacred rhythm of dance. This is the heart of Pueblo life, a vibrant tapestry woven with festivals, ceremonies, and a deep connection to the land and the spirit world. Today, we're exploring the public celebrations that mark the Pueblo calendar, offering a glimpse into a rich cultural heritage that continues to thrive. The year in the Pueblos unfolds like a beautiful, intricate story. Each season brings its own duties, its own blessings, and its own celebrations. Winter is a time for storytelling, for quiet reflection, and for ceremonies that happen within the community, away from public view. As the snow melts and the earth awakens, the focus shifts outward. Spring is a time of planting, of asking for blessings on the new crops. The air fills with the sounds of prayers and the gentle beat of drums, calling for rain and a bountiful harvest. Summer brings the warmth of the sun and the growth of the corn, beans and squash, the three sisters that sustain the people. This is a season of vibrant public dances. Imagine the plaza, the heart of the village, filled with dancers. Their movements are not just performances. They are prayers in motion. Each step, each gesture, each note of the song is filled with meaning, a story of creation, a prayer for balance, a thanksgiving for life itself. The costumes are breathtaking, adorned with natural elements like eagle feathers, evergreen boughs, and shells, each piece carefully crafted and holding deep significance. The men often wear kilts and moccasins, their bodies painted with traditional designs. The women, in their beautiful hand-woven dresses, dance with a grace and strength that is truly mesmerizing. As summer turns to fall, the harvest is gathered in. This is a time of immense gratitude, of celebrating the fruits of the earth and the community's hard work. One of the most well-known public celebrations happens at this time, the San Geronimo Feast Day at Taos Pueblo. On September 30th, the ancient village opens its doors to visitors from all over the world. The day is a fascinating blend of ancient traditions and influences that have come over centuries. It's a day of feasting, of family reunions, and of spirited events. The morning of San Geronimo Day often begins with a mass at the church, honoring the patron saint. But the true heart of the day is in the plaza. You'll see foot races, a tradition that goes back countless generations, symbolizing strength and endurance. Then there's the famous pole climb. A tall, smooth pole is erected in the center of the plaza, with a sheep and other offerings tied at the very top. Young men from the Pueblo, working together, attempt the difficult climb. It's a powerful display of agility, teamwork, and persistence. Their success is a blessing for the entire village, a symbol of prosperity for the coming year. Throughout the day, the plaza buzzes with energy. Artisans sell their beautiful pottery, jewelry, and crafts. The air is filled with the delicious smell of fry bread and red chili stew. It's a sensory feast, a true community gathering where laughter and friendship are shared freely. What makes these public ceremonies so powerful is the spirit behind them. They are not just about spectacle. They are about connection. It's a connection to the ancestors who danced on this same earth, a connection to the community standing beside you, and a connection to the spiritual forces that guide and protect life. The drums are the heartbeat of the earth. The songs are the voices of the people, carrying prayers and stories through the generations. The dances are a way of maintaining balance and harmony in the world. When you attend a Pueblo dance or feast day as a visitor, you are a guest in someone's home and place of worship. It's a privilege to witness these moments. The most important thing is to be respectful. This means no photography, no sketching, and no recording of any kind, unless you are given explicit permission, which is rare. The ceremonies are sacred, not entertainment. It's a time to be present, to watch, to listen, and to feel the energy of the moment. Stay quiet, don't clap unless the community members do, and always follow the directions of the tribal officials who are there to make sure everything runs smoothly. These festivals are also a vital part of the Pueblo economy and social life. It's a time for trade, for renewing old friendships, and for strengthening the bonds that hold the community together. Families prepare for weeks, cooking, cleaning, and getting their homes ready to welcome guests. This spirit of generosity and hospitality is at the core of Pueblo culture. From the animal dances of winter that honor the creatures who share the land, to the corn dances of summer that celebrate the life-giving staple, each ceremony is a thread in the larger cultural fabric. These are not relics of the past. They are living, breathing traditions. They are a testament to the resilience, strength, and profound spiritual beauty of the Pueblo people. They show us a way of living that is deeply rooted in place, in community, and in a sacred relationship with the world around us. The seasonal rhythm of the Pueblos teaches a profound lesson, that life is a cycle of preparation, growth, harvest, and rest. Each phase has its own beauty and its own importance. The public festivals and dances are the moments when this cycle is celebrated with joy, reverence, and a deep sense of gratitude. They are a powerful reminder that we are all connected to each other, to the earth, and to the generations that came before and those that will come after. It's a beautiful worldview, one that we can all learn from. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you found this insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories. Welcome back to our journey through the living history of Taos Pueblo. In this final chapter, we're looking at the present and future, exploring the challenges and preservation efforts that define the Pueblo in the 21st century. It's a story of resilience, adaptation, and unwavering commitment to a way of life that has endured for over 1,000 years. One of the most significant challenges is climate change. For a community so deeply connected to the land, shifts in weather patterns have profound effects. The snowpack on Taos Mountain, which feeds the Rio Pueblo de Taos, has become less reliable. This directly impacts the water supply, a resource that is the very lifeblood of the Pueblo. The community has always practiced careful water management, but now, preservation is more critical than ever. Every drop from Red Willow Creek is sacred, and ensuring its purity and flow for future generations is a top priority. This involves both traditional practices and modern strategies to conserve this precious resource. Hand in hand with water concerns is the increased risk of fire. Drier conditions and warmer temperatures create a tinderbox environment in the surrounding forests. A major fire could devastate not only the watershed, but also the timber resources the community relies on for construction and fuel. Fire safety has become a paramount concern. The tribe works closely with forestry services, implementing fire prevention programs, creating fire breaks, and educating the community on safety measures. It has a constant vigilance to protect their ancestral lands from a threat that grows with each passing year. Then there's the very fabric of the Pueblo itself. The adobe. The iconic multistoried buildings are living structures that require constant care. They are made of earth, water, and straw elements that are vulnerable to erosion. Increased intensity of rainstorms and cycles of freezing and thawing can wear away at the adobe walls. Each year, the community comes together for the traditional replastering, a practice that is both maintenance and a cultural ceremony. It's a beautiful, tangible symbol of their dedication to preserving their physical and cultural home. Women and men work side by side, mixing the mud with their feet and applying it by hand, passing down techniques that have been used for centuries. Perhaps one of the most complex challenges is balancing the needs of a living community with the pressures of tourism. Taos Pueblo is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a National Historic Landmark, drawing visitors from all over the world. This tourism provides a vital economic lifeline for many families and artists. It also offers a unique opportunity to educate the world about their rich culture and history. However, this comes at a cost. The Pueblo is not a museum. It is a home. The residents value their privacy and the sanctity of their daily lives and religious ceremonies. Finding the right balance is a delicate dance. The tribal council has established clear rules for visitors, areas that are off-limits, restrictions on photography, and codes of conduct. These rules are essential to protect the community's privacy and ensure that the sacred spaces remain respected. It's a constant negotiation between being open to the world and preserving the intimate, private nature of their home. Imagine having tourists walking through your front yard every day. The people of Taos Pueblo handle this with incredible grace, but it underscores the need for visitors to be mindful and respectful. Beyond the physical challenges, there is a deep and ongoing effort to preserve the cultural and spiritual heart of the community. One of the most critical aspects of this is language preservation. The Tiwa language is the cornerstone of their cultural identity, holding within it their history, their worldview, and their ceremonial knowledge. For a long time, like many indigenous languages, Tiwa was at risk. Today, there is a powerful movement to revitalize it. The tribe has invested in language programs within the community, starting with the youngest members. Elders, the fluent speakers, are seen as living treasures, and there are focused efforts to have them teach the youth. Through immersion programs, classes, and encouraging its use in daily life, the community is fighting to ensure that Tiwa continues to be a living, breathing language spoken by future generations. It's more than just words. It's about preserving a unique way of seeing and understanding the world. This cultural revitalization extends to all aspects of life. Youth cultural programs are thriving. Young people are learning the traditional dances, songs, and drumming that accompany the ceremonial calendar. They are taught the art of moccasin making, pottery, and other traditional crafts. These programs are not just about learning skills. They are about instilling a sense of identity, pride, and belonging. They connect the youth to their ancestors and give them a strong foundation for their future. By participating in these traditions, they are not just observers of their culture. They are active carriers of it. The resilience of Taos Pueblo in the face of 21st century challenges is a powerful testament to the strength of its people and their enduring connection to their traditions. They are not frozen in time. Instead, they are skillfully navigating the modern world while holding fast to the core values that have sustained them for a millennium. They embrace technology that can help preserve their culture, like digital archives for their language, while rejecting things that threaten their way of life. It's a dynamic living culture that continues to adapt, innovate, and thrive. The story of Taos Pueblo is far from over. It's being written every day in the laughter of children learning Tiwa, in the hands that plaster the ancient walls, and in the prayers offered at the river's edge. It is a story of hope, of survival, and of the profound power of a community united by land, language, and spirit. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through the history and living culture of Taos Pueblo. I hope this series has given you a deeper appreciation for this remarkable place. If you found this video insightful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the rich tapestry of human history. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie buried right beneath our feet? It's not just dirt and rocks. It's a layered history book waiting to be read. Today, we read diving deep into the world of archaeology to uncover how scientists and communities work together to reveal the incredible stories of our past. Archaeology is so much more than just digging for treasure. It's a meticulous science. Imagine a giant layer cake, where each layer represents a different period in time. The deepest layers are the oldest, and the ones closest to the surface are the most recent. Archaeologists call this stratigraphy. They carefully excavate one layer at a time, documenting everything with incredible precision. Every tiny fragment, from a piece of pottery to a discolored patch of soil, is a clue. This careful process is like being a detective of time, but it's not a solo mission. Modern archaeology is a deeply collaborative effort. Before a single shovel touches the ground, archaeologists spend months, sometimes years, consulting with local and indigenous communities. It's about respect. These aren't just sites. They're ancestral lands, sacred places filled with heritage and memory. Community elders and members often hold traditional knowledge that is invaluable. They know the stories, the land, and the significance of certain areas. This partnership ensures that the investigation is conducted ethically and that the history being uncovered is shared and honored by the descendants of the people who lived it. It's a beautiful blend of scientific methods and community wisdom. So what do they find in these layers? Sometimes the discoveries are revolutionary. Take early farming, for example. By analyzing microscopic plant remains, pollen grains, and ancient tools found in specific soil layers, archaeologists can pinpoint when a society transitioned from hunting and gathering to agriculture. They might find the charred seeds of the very first domesticated crops, like wheat or corn. This tells us not just what people ate, but how their entire way of life changed. Farming meant they could stay in one place, leading to the development of villages and eventually cities. And it's not just what they grew, it's what they traded. Imagine finding a seashell necklace in a settlement hundreds of miles from the nearest coast, or finding pottery made with clay from a distant region. These are not just objects. They are evidence of ancient trade networks. By tracing these goods back to their origins, archaeologists can map out vast economic and social connections that existed thousands of years ago. It shows us that globalization isn't a modern phenomenon. Our ancestors were connected in complex ways, exchanging goods, ideas, and cultures across incredible distances. The layers also reveal how people built their homes and communities. An archaeologist might uncover the post holes of a wooden longhouse. Then, in a layer directly above it, they might find the stone foundations of a completely different style of building. This shows us a change in construction techniques, maybe due to new technology, a shift in culture, or even a change in the climate. By carefully peeling back these construction phases, we can watch a settlement evolve over centuries. We see how a small hamlet grew into a bustling town, how defensive walls were built, and how public spaces were created. Each layer of construction is a chapter in the town's life story. One of the most profound things archaeology reveals is the sheer longevity of human habitation. Some sites have been continuously occupied for thousands of years. Imagine living in a city where people have also lived, loved, and worked for over 5,000 years. The layers of occupation show us an incredible resilience and continuity. We find evidence of communities rebuilding after floods or fires, adapting to environmental changes, and passing down traditions from one generation to the next. It's a powerful reminder that we are part of a very, very long story. The ground we walk on is not just ground. It's a library of human experience. Let's look at a real-world example. At sites like Katal in modern-day Turkey, one of the world's first cities, archaeologists have found dozens of layers of settlements stacked on top of each other. People built new houses directly on top of the old ones, creating a mound of history that spans over 1,000 years. By excavating these layers, we've learned about their art, their religion, and their social structure, all without a single written word from them. The layers themselves are the text. So the next time you see an archaeological dig, remember it's not just a hole in the ground. It's a carefully conducted scientific investigation, a respectful collaboration with communities, and a portal to the past. It's a place where tiny clues in the soil come together to tell the grand story of humanity, our innovations, our connections, and our enduring spirit. The work of an archaeologist is to give a voice to the silent layers beneath our feet, ensuring that the stories of those who came before us are not forgotten but are instead revealed, respected, and shared with the world. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through time. If you found this fascinating, don't forget to subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the wonders of our world. See you next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel! Today, we re-journeying to the high desert of New Mexico to explore a place that is not just a historical site, but a living, breathing community with roots stretching back 1,000 years. We're talking about the remarkable Taos Pueblo, a place so significant it was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1992. Let us dive into what makes this place truly one of a kind. Imagine a community that has been continuously inhabited for over a millennium. That's the reality of Taos Pueblo. This isn't a ruin or a museum, it's a home. The people of Taos Pueblo, or the Red Willow people as they call themselves, have maintained their traditions, culture, and way of life on this very land for countless generations. This incredible continuity is one of the primary reasons for its UNESCO recognition. While the world outside has transformed dramatically, the core of Taos Pueblo remains, a testament to the resilience and strength of its people. When you first see Taos Pueblo, the architecture is what immediately captivates you. The multistoried residential complex, made of adobe, a mixture of earth, water, and straw, looks like it has grown right out of the landscape. These reddish-brown structures are some of the most iconic and photographed in North America. The main part of the Pueblo is actually two large buildings, Loma on the north side and Loquima on the south. They're separated by a stream, the Rio Pueblo de Taos, which flows from the sacred Blue Lake high in the mountains. This stream is the community's sole source of drinking water and is central to their daily life. The buildings themselves are a marvel of sustainable architecture. The thick adobe walls provide natural insulation, keeping the homes cool in the blistering summer heat and warm during the cold winter months. The structures appear as stacked blocks, with the upper levels set back from the ones below, creating a terraced effect. Originally, there were no doors on the ground floors. People used ladders to climb to the rooftops and enter their homes through openings in the ceiling. This was a defensive measure, making the Pueblo a fortress against potential invaders. Today you'll see doors and windows, but many ladders are still used to access the upper floors, preserving that unique visual character. What makes Taos Pueblo truly exceptional is that it's a living culture. UNESCO doesn't just recognize ancient stones. It recognizes the intangible heritage, the traditions, the language, the ceremonies that are still practiced today. About 150 people live within the old Pueblo walls full-time, practicing a traditional lifestyle without electricity or running water. Thousands more tribal members live in modern homes on the surrounding Pueblo land. The Tiwa language is still spoken, ancient ceremonies are still performed, and traditional arts and crafts, like micaceous clay pottery and buckskin moccasins, are still created with incredible skill. When you visit Taos Pueblo, you're not just a tourist. You're a guest in someone's home. You can walk through the village, browse the small shops where artisans sell their work directly, and even taste traditional foods like fry bread or stews baked in outdoor ovens called hornos. This direct interaction provides a rare and precious glimpse into a culture that has resisted complete assimilation. The community governs itself, maintaining its own laws and traditions separate from the outside world. This sovereignty is a crucial part of its identity and its survival. The UNESCO designation in 1992 was a monumental moment. It wasn't just an award. It was a global acknowledgement of the Pueblo's cultural and historical importance. The official citation highlights that Taos Pueblo is a remarkable example of a traditional type of architectural ensemble from the pre-Hispanic period of the Americas and that it is a living culture. This recognition helps protect the site and brings awareness to the challenges the community faces in preserving its heritage in the modern world. A vital part of this heritage is the spiritual landscape that surrounds the Pueblo. The land is not just property. It is sacred. The majestic Taos Mountain, which stands guard over the Pueblo, and Blue Lake, the source of the community's water and spiritual life, are profoundly important. For decades, the people of Taos Pueblo fought a long and difficult battle with the U.S. government to regain control of their sacred Blue Lake and its surrounding watershed, which had been incorporated into a national forest. In 1970, in a landmark victory for Native American rights, the land was returned. This event was crucial for the spiritual and cultural survival of the community, ensuring that their most sacred site would be protected for future generations. This deep connection between the people, their homes, and the natural environment is what truly defines Taos Pueblo. The architecture reflects the landscape, the water from the sacred lake sustains life, and the mountain provides a spiritual anchor. It's a holistic worldview where everything is interconnected. UNESCO recognized that you cannot separate the buildings from the people from their traditions, or the traditions from the land. It is all one living, breathing entity. So when we talk about Taos Pueblo, we're discussing more than just ancient adobe walls. We're talking about a story of survival, resilience, and unwavering dedication to a way of life. It's a place that teaches us about sustainability, community, and the importance of preserving cultural heritage, not as a relic of the past, but as a vital part of the present and future. The UNESCO designation helps ensure that the voice of the Red Willow people will continue to be heard and their incredible home will be protected for centuries to come. It stands as a powerful symbol of cultural persistence against all odds. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the significance of Taos Pueblo. It's a place that truly touches the soul and offers profound lessons for us all. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about incredible cultural sites around the world, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. See you next time. Here we are, at the end of our journey, but in a place where time itself feels different. This is Taos Pueblo. And as the first light of dawn kisses the adobe walls, it's not just illuminating a structure. It's touching 1,000 years of history, 1,000 years of life. Imagine, for a full millennium, a community has thrived right here, on this very ground. Think about what was happening 1,000 years ago. The world was a completely different place. Empires rose and fell. Maps were redrawn again and again. Yet here life continued. The Red Willow Creek, the lifeblood of the Pueblo, has been flowing just as it does today, its gentle murmur a constant soundtrack to generations of stories. What does it mean to live in one place for so long? It means your roots don't just go into the earth. They weave through time itself. It means the hands that built these walls were the hands of ancestors whose spirits are still felt in the cool shade of the doorways. The walls themselves are made of this land earth, water, and straw. When they need repair, they are replastered with the same earth. It's a living building, breathing with the seasons, a physical manifestation of a continuous, unbroken chain of existence. Look at the way the light plays on the multi-storied buildings. It's a soft, warm glow, a painter's light. It's easy to see why so many artists have been drawn to this place, trying to capture its essence. But the true masterpiece isn't a painting. It's the community itself. It's the quiet dignity, the resilience, the profound connection to this specific spot on the planet. Each doorway, each ladder, each plaza holds a universe of memories. A child's first steps, a marriage celebration, the wisdom shared by an elder, the solemnity of a sacred ceremony. These aren't just historical events you read about in a book. They are lived experiences, passed down not just in words, but in the very rhythm of daily life. The smell of cedar smoke in the air, the taste of bread baked in a traditional horno oven, the feel of the cool, packed earth under your feet. These are the senses of 1,000 years. To stand here is to feel a sense of permanence that is almost impossible to find in our modern fast-paced world. We move, we change, we chase the new. But Taos Pueblo reminds us of a different way of being. It's a testament to the power of tradition, of community, and of a spiritual bond with the land that is absolute and unwavering. The people of Taos Pueblo have weathered so much. They've faced external pressures, the encroachment of worlds, the challenges of drought and conflict. And yet they remain. Their culture, their language, their way of life, it has all been carefully preserved, guarded, and passed on. It's not a relic of the past. It's a vibrant, living culture that continues to evolve, rooted firmly in its ancient traditions. Think of the children growing up here today. They play in the same plazas their ancestors played in 1,000 years ago. They learn the stories that have been told for countless generations. They are the future of this ancient place, the next link in that unbroken chain. There is something incredibly powerful and humbling in that realization. This continuity isn't accidental. It's a conscious choice, a daily commitment to a set of values and a way of life. It's a deep understanding that they are not just living asterisk on asterisk the land, but that they asterisk are asterisk the land. The mountains, the river, the sky, they are all relatives, part of the extended family. As the sun climbs higher, the Pueblo awakens. The sounds of a new day begin, but they are layered over the silence documentos 1,000 years of mornings, just like this one. You can feel a presence here, a sense of something everlasting. It's not a ghostly haunting, but a profound, peaceful energy. It's the collective spirit of every person who has ever called this place home. Visiting Taos Pueblo is more than just a tourist experience, it's a pilgrimage. It's an opportunity to step outside of our own linear, hurried sense of time, and to feel, just for a moment, the deep, circular, and eternal rhythm of a place that has mastered the art of endurance. It teaches us that home is more than a building, it's memory. It's a connection. It's a story that is still being written, one sunrise at a time. This isn't an ending, but a new beginning in our own understanding. A reminder of what it means to belong, to endure, and to live in harmony with the world around us. The river continues to flow, the walls continue to stand, and the heart of Taos Pueblo continues to beat, strong and steady, for the next 1,000 years and beyond. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. If you were moved by this story, please consider sharing it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more explorations into the heart of our world. Until next time, travel thoughtfully,